built to showcase the city of Shanghai to the world, established over a 5.3 square kilometer site in the Jiading district, tactically positioned as well next to the major car part manufacturing plants in China. Welcome everybody to the EA F1 Creator Series and its Chinese Grand Prix. You're joining me, George Morgan, here in the commentary box. Alongside me, as always, is Dan Gilligan. Looking ahead to another fabulous night of racing where I'm sure we'll witness, plenty as we look ahead here at China. And Dan, Tim Marduk leading the standings with M-Sky-Z in second place. The big question is, though, who's going to take all the plaudits here tonight?
I think Curbs. Curbs, to me, is the driver who is going to get top dollar this evening. I'm predicting it now. The tallest full-time streamer on Twitch, as his notifications always let us all know if you happen to follow him and you have Twitch app on your phone. So there you go. That's a thing. But yes, we've got an interesting group of drivers in today, as per usual. But it's just nice to be back, I think, George. I'm just happy to be along for the ride. It's been so long since I've seen your beautiful face on camera that is all primed and ready for me to upset it and make it giggle in all sorts of unpleasant ways.
You do a great job of it, Dan. Great to have you back as well, sir. Honestly, I cannot wait for this one. Obviously, China itself, we've witnessed what it can bring in terms of a sprint race that we saw in real life. Of course, we've raced here twice before. This is the third occasion we have come here in the EA Sports F1 Creator Series. Off the back of Season 1, Alex Gillen, our first ever race winner around this track. Bushy Ants took pole, however. Of course, we haven't had Bushy Ants in this championship now for quite some time, but we can always hark back to his great results in the past and achieving pole position in the first ever time we raced around there in Season 1. Rasin Chai, though, would be the most recent one. Of course, only raced twice, as I said prior. Rasin Chai going from pole to victory off the back of Season's 5 effort, which would lead him to take the title as well. It certainly has been a long journey, but we come here for the third time in our third rendition. Tim Marduk at the head of the field. He'll be hoping that lightning strikes twice as well. Same like Rasin Chai obviously went ahead to win the title after that. Of course, Tim Marduk still looking for his first championship, has gone close in the past, Dan. If you get a decent result here in China, especially midway through the season, it does put you in a great position.
Certainly does. Good results, of course, all the more important than ever before, given that we have this shortened season format for the current season, and sprint races giving an extra bit of jeopardy. And of course, this particular sprint race, there's an extra bit of jeopardy versus the last few that we've had, George.
Yeah, it certainly does. Plenty of jeopardy. Fast sections when we look at the straights. Obviously, some of the slow speed sections as well. You go from fast to slow in a matter of moments around the circuit of Shanghai. Let's take a look as well at some of the finer details, including the championship. Let's check it out as we take a look and certainly proceed through the course of the race. Of course, we do have standings here on offer for you guys to take a look at. And as we alluded to, Tim Marduk at the head of the field, 73 points to his name. M-Sky-Z still looking to reach for the skies there in second place. It's really bizarre how we've not seen this man take control of the championship. He went close last season to winning the title, could not quite do it, but this year might yet have his chance, but needs to try and take down the Aussie. Maraki, of course, former champion as well, who went up against Tim Marduk in that blistering final that we had at Spa. 53 points there in third place with Alex Gillen, also a former champion, down in fourth. Tom in fifth. Tom 97, someone else who is really someone to look out for. Really tremendous talent. Rasin Chai not here tonight, but we're getting Yorpa back, Dan.
We certainly are. We're getting Yorpa back, and at least it's not Yorpa forward. That's the main thing there. I don't know what that was. That was a terrible joke, but most of mine are, as we all know. So never change. No. Oh, thank you. Thank you, darling. I won't spit on you later. As far as what happens now, then, we've got, of course, apparently, we may not be seeing our championship leader this evening, because in the Twitch chat, Petronas34 has pointed out that Ben's stream has crashed, and he's had a power cut, apparently. Now, I don't know how quick he is in terms of getting to a different location, getting onto a different rig, something like that, but he's going to need some speedy help there. But he does own an Audi R8 and a McLaren, so, at least he's got the kit to get himself to another location pretty quickly, if he does end up getting that, though. I don't know where else I was going to go with that, to be perfectly honest with you. There was a point that was forming, but instead I shall simply point out we may or may not have a change to damage rules this particular race, do we not, George? Or is that just for F2?
I think that's just for FT. I tell you one man who might be able to tell us is Gareth Allen, because he's joining us in the commentary box as well. Gareth, over to you.
Maybe something I should have briefed you about before the race. But yes, we do have a change in the sprint race that we have coming up very shortly. We have sim damage on. They are trialing sim damage in the Creator Series for the first time. So we could see a few broken front wings, certainly. And I quickly want to just take us through an incident from the previous Chinese Grand Prix, which is around the final corner. Of course, we saw it today going a bit wrong for someone, but El Teco Man just rolling into Chesnoid Gaming there, and Chesnoid getting a good look at the Haas that he moved to in Season 5. So I'm on the clipbook today. Hello, everyone, and I'm very excited to be able to bring you all the clipbook coverage. Please get the clips into chat, into the Discord, !Discord in chat to get those in. And any technical issues, shout at me. I'm the person who should sort those out as well. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one. And yeah, sprint is maybe 5 or so minutes away.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. Gareth Allen on the pulse, on the button of everything. That is the EA F1 Creator Series. Incredible. Let's take a look as well at the lineup that we have, of course, this season, because obviously there's quite a plethora of drivers that have come into this that have been pre-assigned cars for the campaign. Obviously, we do have a few that have stepped out. In fact, we're just having a little technical glitch on my side, I think, because it seems that the stream isn't showing, so I won't be able to.
Gareth has frozen himself on my end as well, so I don't think it's unique to you, George.
I'm relieved that I'm in the same boat as you, Dan Gilligan. But yes, no, incredible.
You might regret being in the same boat as me later on when the food runs out, darling.
Oh dear.
I'm not beyond cannibalism, if I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Fabulous. But yeah, obviously, looking back at China, we've obviously discussed Alex Gillen being our Season 1 race winner, Bushiance being on pole. Still a numerous amount of names, though, that are currently up at the front end. I mean, Timo Mardik, having that crash as such, Dan, I suppose that's the closest we're going to get to a powertrain failure in sim racing, is it not?
Well, I mean, it's either that or if you actually had your wheel itself completely fail. I mean, that has happened, of course, in sim racing. You've also had game crashes. Would you happen to know about any game crashes recently in any sort of sim racing events of any description? Is there anything you might know about that, George?
I don't know what you mean, Daniel Gilligan.
No. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Just checking. You are such a man of a wealth of experience. I don't know if you might be aware.
Well, I'm tell you what, I've heard nothing of the sort. I can tell you that now.
There you go.
My ears
Sim racing is infallible, as it turns out.
It is
Nothing
now.
can possibly go wrong.
Yeah. Honestly, I've not been associated to any issues whatsoever in the sim racing world. At the top end of the standings, though, Timo Mardik only laying claim to 1 race victory so far this season. It was, in fact, the most recent one, which was a fan-voted one that, of course, we did have previous time around. Sky Z, though, someone who is still looking to tread on his toes and take a potential championship, doing well to score points at Japan. Of course, Timo Mardik did go close. It was a hectic race and very controversial as well if we hark back to the incident between Benjamin Daly and arch nemesis Alex Gillen as well. Still quite a few other drivers, though, looking to enlist their very first race wins. Gillen, no stranger to victories. He did so back at Brazil in dominating fashion. Meraki, still yet to lay claim to a race win this season, but currently sits higher than Gillen in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Is tonight Meraki's night, Dan Gilligan?
It could well be. I mean, if he's able to pull it together, he had whole of last season, of course, where he starts at the back of the field every single race, and we're still able to pound out some good results, it must be said. But, this time around, China, it's a circuit which, it's one of those circuits where everybody seems to have a good day on China, but whether you all happen to have a good day at the same time or not is really the big question. I find it tends to be the most Marmite of circuits for people. You either have your best days there or your worst days. There's never really a normal or an average Chinese Grand Prix, really. And I think that a large part of that is because the fact it's, of course, not been on the calendar since 2019. And so, whilst it has been in the games, of course, in that period of time, it has been added in to the games either post-launch or at launch, whatever it happens to be. The fact of the matter is that because the race is so often not in the usual calendar rotation in those intervening seasons, you've then got the content creators naturally, particularly those who do career mode content creation. They're the ones who then may have just a little bit less in the way of exposure to this circuit in these particular cars. Not to this circuit generally, because of course a lot of the people doing this sort of content creation have been doing it for many, many years, back from 2019 and earlier. Certainly the case of drivers like Benjamin Daly and Tom97 and Alex Gillen and so on. So for those drivers, there's going to be a bit of experience there. And then, of course, those who maybe do open lobbies and other bits and pieces, there'll be some familiarity with this circuit as well. But I think as a general rule, you're going to be finding, not too dissimilar to F1 in the real world, drivers coming back to this circuit after maybe not seriously attacking it for a long, long time.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on. It's going to be quite intriguing because China, like we said, has very rarely appeared on any calendar. Obviously, a track that we haven't seen in real life F1 for a long, long time, and obviously transferring that element into sim racing. Of course, things do differ slightly in the Creator Series. We have raced here twice before, but it's good to see that we have got dry conditions, which is obviously ideal for many of the drivers. Not many of them do like racing in the wet conditions, but obviously in very traditional Creator Series format, we do, of course, follow the F1 calendar, and at the same time the real life weather conditions as well that make their way through the weekend. So it's dry here at Shanghai, and as we make your way through Sector 1 as well, some tricky corners to negotiate around, Dan. Turn 1, Turn 2, Turn 3. Turns 1 and 2, I suppose in some ways actually manacled together in some way, but you instantly turn back on yourself coming through Turn 3 and head out of Turn 4 into Sector 2 out of Turn 5 and another hairpin at Turn 6. A technical circuit, Shanghai, but high speed all the same in places.
Very much so. I mean, it's a lovely circuit, really, actually, in a lot of different ways. You've got that great big long back straight. You've got all of that availability for the drivers to... oh, crikey, are we on a formation lap already? Is that what's happening? I don't know. I think so, possibly. There we go. There we go. We finally get some confirmation in our ear as to what on earth is going on. But there we are. Then we've got everybody jumping out then onto the circuit. And as we go around this formation lap, then there's a few areas to talk about. This first couple of corners, as you talked about briefly there, George. I mean, it's an interesting one. Turn 1 in particular, you can either go for that kind of tight to the inside line, and then you might actually be a bit slower in terms of your maximum speed, but of course you're covering a much shorter distance. There will then be others who go for that sort of higher line where you can carry more speed around, but then of course you open yourself up to potentially being attacked up the inside. We saw that in the sprint, of course, not naming any drivers because we don't want to spoil it for anybody who may not have seen it, but we saw it with different lines of attack being deployed by drivers at the start and middle and end of that sprint race as well, to good and bad effect in both cases for those drivers there. So it's an interesting one. Also interesting, I think, is the selection of tyres that we've got here today. Most people going for the mediums, but a few opting for the soft, it seems.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an interesting methodology. Chesnoy Gaming on the front row alongside Rob. He's actually on the soft, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets the jump, how his launch is coming off the line going in towards Turn 1. Obviously, position heading through the first sector is imperative, though it's, at Turn 1, it's a funny one because you can hang it around the outside going through Turn 1 and Turn 2, which could very quickly become the inside coming out of Turn 3. So it's a bit of a question mark as to what suits what driver, essentially. But if you've got the ability to pull off moves such as that, then you're in a good spot. There's Meraki in the bottom right-hand corner. Has a reasonable sprint race record, certainly this campaign, a race winner in the Brazil sprint at the very start of the season. Still yet to lay claim, though, as I said earlier on, to a feature race victory, but be hoping if he can spring back some of his very best sprint form here this time around. Of course, Brazil now seems so long ago here at this stage, but a very key point in the season as we meet the halfway stage of the championship before we then head onto the F1 24 game. And don't forget, folks, of course, new trailers have been shown, and us alike here in the EA Sports F1 Creator Series, we will, of course, be moving onto that platform as soon as the game comes out. There's Tom97 returning back as well once again to the Creator Series, someone who you'd expect to see at the very forefront. Missing, though, missing out one race this campaign. Of course, didn't partake at Japan, but marked his return to the fan-voted track with a runners-up spot, also laying claim to pole position in that instance, and the intermediate tyre pole as well, as we now see the cars line up onto the grid here for this sprint race here at Shanghai. At the very tail of the field, you can just see the cars beginning to line up. Tiamat Marduk, of course, rooted to the rear here at this point, being our championship leader. Remember, it's literally reverse championship order as we make our way through this campaign. Jorge down at the back, Alberola, who currently sits P19 as we await the lights to go red here at Shanghai. All 5 lights are indeed lit. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. Rob gets away very well on those medium tyres. Chesnoid, though, trying to fight him, ending through towards turn 1, has the tighter inside line that might favour him here. Following him through as well is Fabio in the Ferrari, and currently sat in P3. He's going to try the long way round to try and unstop Rob, who remains in second. But it's still Chesnoid Gaming. Zapso's retired. A DNF already for Zapso. The Alpine out, but Chesnoid leads here at Shanghai. Paya down the inside of Matty D13 as well as they make their way into Sector 2 proper. Chesnoid in command and out in front.
Absolutely. I think Safso then the first victim of simulation damage here in the sprint, of course. It was a very, very good start from Chesnoid, just placing that car up the inside, using that extra traction, that extra purchase from the soft tyre. And as we watch then, these cars in the background, they're all going wide. They're all giving each other just a little bit more in the way of a wide berth here compared to in previous races. It's good to see in some ways, bad to see in others that they have track extending in order to do it. But of course, the big thing with the sim damage is not just how easily you can get damage or retirement, but the fact that the damage itself has then a much greater effect upon the performance of the car too. And it was said in drivers' briefings earlier on, it was said in announcements for the drivers, just because you're a quick car does not automatically entitle you to space in front of a slower car. You've got to make sure as the overtaking car, you do so safely and you do so without making contact. And so that then is something which we need to keep an eye on for as those quick cars come through the field, and maybe they won't come through quite as quickly as they have done on previous occasions. Chesnoid comes across the start-finish line to begin at lap number 2 here. Just a little point of clarification for those in chat who are a little bit confused. 10 laps here, not 19 as it was in the official F1 sprint race, because our sprint race are 50%, our Grand Prix are 100%. As up the inside there goes Rob, trying to hang it out with Matty D, but Matty D then has that outside line. It's going to turn to the inside for the next corner that is coming up now. Onto the brakes, nice and late it'll be medium tyre versus medium tyre, but no! Unstop Rob is unstoppable. He gets all the way around the outside of Matty D, and he starts to drive on forwards, trying to now get back inside of DRS range of Chesnoid Gaming to make sure that they can then get themselves back into a potential position to win this sprint race.
Yeah, absolutely right. Coming through the middle sector. Great move indeed from Rob there just to hang on. It looked, though, that he was going to be a little bit held up slightly with Matty D. Eventually, potentially managed to get himself back up the inside, heading into Sector 2 proper. Just wasn't to be, as now we see Dave Gaming also now on the attack. Jorge Alberola has made places already, of course. Set the world on fire when he made his debut in the F1 Creator Series back at Japan. Well, actually, no, back at Brazil where he made his debut. He was certainly sensational. And now looking to persevere and perhaps take more places again. Breaks into the top 10 now. Here comes Jorge Alberola. He's going to take the outside line now in towards the hairpin, coming in towards turn 14. The Aston Martin now looks for a very clever switchback, and something that we would expect from someone who is so well accustomed to this platform. Of course, historically, back in the day, would have contested against the likes of Jarno Watmir at the very heights of league racing, only back in season 27 of PSGL, where he went wheel to wheel and was hat-tipped for a potential F1 esports drive. Just wasn't to be, though, necessarily, as we're now seeing MSkyZ also on the move, managing to displace Dave Gaming down the inside, now making his way out of turn 3 through turn 4. Great move there from SkyZ.
I had to applaud that. You won't have heard it because of our noise cancelling stuff here. But yeah, great move there from MSkyZ, hanging it all the way around the outside. Now up the inside goes GB68. Good move there. Late on the brakes, takes advantage of those soft tyres. But I think there may have been a little bit of contact there between them and the car behind, because there was a sudden oversteer moment after they'd already started getting going. And so I wonder now whether we're going to start to see GB go backwards or not. It looks as though the car is still all in one piece and still going. So might be that was just a little bit of a strange wheel spin in a bit of a higher gear a bit later on out the exit of the corner than you might expect. But it's still, yeah, good racing up and down this field. But of course, it's just those top 8 positions. They're the only ones that give you the points. So you need to get a bit of a shift on at this stage. That's when you peak this week after you've 6,
yeah.
Well, not 60, sorry.
Absolutely. That guy Vince now 1.2 behind curb, so has forfeited any kind of DRS here at this stage. We have got a move, though, at the front, as now Rob takes the takes the lead, gets his nose in front coming out of turn 14 and will hold on to it as well. So Chesnoid relegated to second. So the Haas now coming under pressure from the McLaren in behind of Matty D13. So it's all starting to unfold. The AlphaTauri now spearheads this current encounter here now on lap 4 of 10 as they now burst through towards turn 1 again. Chesnoid looking aggressive around the outside this time. Matty D13 though looking to try and strike it in position, as is El Rey Guri, the Spaniard who's not afraid of sticking his nose in, tries to position his Red Bull in an area where it could have laid claim to a P3, just could not quite pull it through, but the pace certainly with El Rey here in this initial portion of this in this initial sprint race.
There we go, then we're getting reports in the chat from people watching along on some of the drivers' streams, getting in all their reactions, seeing what damage is now starting to be dished out to drivers who've maybe just gone that little bit too far over the line in terms of how they've fought other drivers. And certainly we're getting reports that Tom 97 has damage, that's why they're all the way at the back of the field. They've pitted since and have ended up coming back out onto the circuit with that damage repaired. You've also then got Hayden with an amber floor, so that is really starting to give them a bit of hard time there in terms of driving that along. We've got Rob still up in the lead, of course, and then in terms of tyre wear, apparently Alex Gillon 11% tyre wear on the mediums, though Gillon does also have, according to another chatter, a yellow end plate damage on their car there. Massive straight line speed from El Rey Guri. Clearly a bit of deployment going on there with the Red Bull powering on up towards the back of Matty D, and up the inside they go, and in the background goes the Alfa Romeo of Peya as well. And then, oh dear, bit of a moment there for Matty D coming out the exit of the hairpin, but that then just means that El Rey Guri now P3 in this sprint race.
Yeah, and Tom also going through as well to P4. Matty D13, by the looks of it, falling down the field. Now, is that a venture into the pits? I don't think it is. Yes, it is, though. Yes, into the pits comes Matty D13. So perhaps some damage sustained on the part of the McLaren, as it now looks to position itself back out onto the track. There's Curbs, currently sat behind that guy Vince as well, from the Williams. We now take a look at the replay. Now this is of Dave Gaming around the outside here. Oh, a bit of contact with Meraki, so that's where the moment
that was GB,
good.
George.
Was it
Sorry,
GB?
I think that was GB on his outside. I think that's the moment we saw from GB's onboard where it looked like a really strange oversteering moment, like a wheel spin moment, but it was that contact there.
Yeah, interesting stuff. But Curbs now in 7th, with Meraki now up to 10th. As we now see the cars venture their way on lap 5 of 10. Rob still out in front. 7 tenths now between Ps1 and Ps2. Chesnoid, though, I think a little concerned with El Rey in behind. Of course, though, El Rey actually losing Delta here at this point. 1.1 seconds out. Chesnoid now is second behind Rob as well. I think has made a mistake. So that has allowed El Rey to be in position for a potential fight for P2 here as they bomb down this long straight this time in towards the hairpin. 14. There's El Rey. In comes Tom as well. Chesnoid clear up at the front end as we now see them go nose to tail, and Tom unseating El Rey. There, also now chucking it up the inside. We saw him make an aggressive move earlier on. Further back, that guy Vince as well in P6 is now curtailed through the final corner, and Peya ascends and manages to displace that guy Vince with El Rey now down in 6th.
That was brave from Peya, hanging it round the outside on a driver who we suspect might have damage at this point as well. Up the back goes Curbs. Oh dear, Curbs then just getting a bit of a touch up the back there of El Rey Guri. Usually I think that they wouldn't mind that much, but in this context, maybe that's not going to be so welcome. And as they go down towards the next corner then, it's going to be Curbs up in 7th place, just ahead of the Spaniard. They're going to have to be careful on their inside. I can see them in the mirrors there. There from the off-board shot we go. Massive rear lock-up, it looks like, for El Rey Guri. They're just getting it stopped up on the inside, though, wide of the apex. That's opened up the door now for M Sky Z to potentially come and have a look round too. And I think this corner, this is where we're going to see, yeah, El Rey has massive damage. You can see there the front right part of the front wing completely gone. That end plate has disappeared. That is really hurting them through that long... And there it goes, the whole wing has gone. The whole wing has gone as UB68 turned across the front of them. And I think there with a car that was already wounded, already damaged, El Rey should have just shown the better part of valor.
Oh,
what on earth was that? Oh, for goodness sakes. That guy Vince, I'm sorry to say it, my friend, but that was utter stupidity. Why would you drive back onto the racing line when you are stationary? That is stupidity.
Well, I tell you what, a senseless safety car now brought out. 4 cars now DNF'd from this Shanghai sprint race. And let me just say, what a moment, and one I'm sure that guy Vince is not going to look on fondly, as we now ride on board with Matty D13, who after boxing earlier on, we saw him come into the pits, has now got some respite. He can now come out amongst the safety car, essentially bring himself up with the rest of the field. Tim Marduk now breaking into the top 10. He's decided to pit, as has GB68. So now various cars, much like we saw in the F2 sprint race earlier on, while in the safety car conditions, taking advantage and moving on to a faster compound of tyre, no doubt. As now GB sets himself in place, fresh soft tyres on the car. No surprise to see that, and that could pay dividends coming into the closing laps here, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really what's interesting here as well, of course, is remember what I said earlier on, everybody. This sprint race is a 50% distance one, so you've got to imagine all the tyre scaling is double of what we have right here. So everybody is on 6-lap old tyres, but in reality, when you compare it to what they are probably more used to, what they've done more practice for in terms of the Grand Prix later on 100% distance, well, that's then going to be double that. It's going to be 12 laps worth of wear on those tyres. So brand new, fresh, soft tyres are going to have so much more purchase, so much more grip. And you combine that with the potential repair of certain bits of damage on those cars behind as well. Cars ahead may not have then pitted and gotten themselves some damage repaired, or maybe they're just carrying damage that cannot be repaired. It's just, it's going to be such an interesting end to this one if they can catch the safety car, because of course the game has to leave 2 laps worth of running at the end, so it will come in either at the end of this lap or the end of next lap. There will be no more laps beyond the end of lap 8.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. Matty D13 actually well placed here. Only 2 laps actually accrued to his soft tyres, and is sat behind Meraki. But a great chance here to make some places, because there's a sea of cars on medium tyres. If you are in that top 8, you are in trouble. If you're Chesnoy Gaming, you might yet have a chance. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's prolonged the life of those soft tyres, but nonetheless, they've had and accrued a lot more wear than those behind. Obviously, GB68 will also see this as an opportunity himself. We know how fast he is, and obviously looking for more points, greater points. Currently comes in 10th place in the championship standings. A retirement last time out of the fan vote Grand Prix. As we take a look at the replay, now this is that guy Vince. This is the moment that led to the chaos coming out of this section before then venturing out of turn 11 in towards turn 12. Was actually spun and then tried to rejoin onto the racing line. Probably should have held his position there, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've been hit up the back, and the hit up the back, I'm completely at sympathy for them for, because that's never your fault. If you're a driver in front, you've hit your normal braking point. The guy behind you doesn't hit their braking point, and they go into the back of you. That's never fair. But what you could see there in the clip, which I think is absolutely inexcusable, is they have spun. They're on the racing line, or near enough to the racing line. They've then gone forwards. Whilst all the cars around them are coming past, it's not a mystery that those cars are coming by. We've got the proximity arrows, you've got the rear view mirrors, you've got everything. You've got the track map that also indicates that. So the fact that they've then gone forwards, then been hit, unsurprisingly, and then thrown their hands in the air as if to say, oh no, how did that happen? That's silly from me, really. I don't agree with that in any way, shape or form.
Thank you, James Hunt, as we now watch.
Do you want me to start making the accent a little bit more posh as well? Do you want me to just call him an idiot?
Brilliant. Gareth Allen, any verdict from yourself, sir?
There was a little creep forward. I think Dan's maybe being a little bit harsh. It was almost an instinctive reaction. Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a creep forward. If he stopped, I don't think the contact would have changed. I think Elway Giver was still going to crash into him. He was parked in the middle of the road after that corner. I think just a really difficult place to stop, and it took 4 of our drivers out in one fell swoop. It's a symptom of sim damage here in the Creator Series for the first time. We've got 2 laps here to the end. This is going to be epic. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much, Gareth. The safety car now confirmed to be coming in this lap. Rob still leads the way. The question is, can he bring it home in this vein as well? Of course, China being on under of what he would take in his F2 championship victory. And he'll be hoping the lightning strikes twice here once again, this time in F1 trim. As we now see the cars make their way down towards the final hairpin on this very lap. Lap 8 of 10, which will soon become lap 9. It is going to be a banzai. 2 final laps left here in this Chinese Grand Prix sprint race. as they now hurtle out. And a great restart already from Rob, who's already got going. He's managed to clear Chesnoid, who was struggling, I think, with a little bit of wheel spin of sorts, as they now make their way out to the final corners now. You can just see his Hats teammate Alex Gillen actually running out rather wide as well. Of course, we alluded to Alex Gillen's race win back at Season 1. GB68 already putting those fresh soft tyres to work and usurps Meraki heading through turn 1 straight away, Dan.
Absolutely, yep, those soft tyres are going to give him so much extra grip. The thing he's got to be careful of course, is the drivers in front are not going to have that grip available to them, and so they will be braking much earlier than he may be anticipating. But this is another one here. He gets the move done on M-Skies. He might even get it done on the Williams in front, but that would be a very, very silly thing to do, and then, just squeeze a little bit there by Curbs, but GB then is on the warpath. Look at this then. He's just making his way through now, through the long, high-speed left-hander, shortly followed up by the one to the right, and just ahead of him here is going to be Alex Gillen then. Gillen is the one, of course, who fought for most vocally the sim damage regulations and so on, and now, as we understand, carrying a little bit of damage themselves. They've been usurped in this sprint race by GB68, as also Benjamin Daly's having a look here and there. At this point, they've got 8th place, they've got 1 point, but I'm sure they're going to be hoping for many, many more than that. Tom has already also made their way up into P2. I think this is a symptom now of those soft tyres really dying off for those who've been running on them for a long time, like Chesnoid here. But we can also see then that we've got Benjamin Daly here, P7, pushing his way forwards here. You can see in the background there, the cars all 3 wide coming into the corner then. And in the end, we see a bit of fighting, bumping and barging here and there, and Curbs is shuffled down the order like he's in a pack of cards.
Yeah, he certainly is. GB68, though, ascending. Infratic, though, yet 2 penalties added to his name. Obviously down in 15th, seemingly out of the race as GB goes on the hunt again. Ascends to P4 as he now dominates around the outside of Perrier and is now 1 step away from a sprint podium here at this point. But we're going to go 3 wide as well with Tim and Marduk forcing it down the inside out of turn 3. He has taken Alex Gillen as well. What a move from Tim and Marduk, astounding everybody here at this stage as well, as is GB68, who dives down the inside as well, coming out of turn 6, and will make his way through turn 7 in a podium, sprint podium place. Tim and Marduk following suit. These soft tyres are really working for these drivers right now here, Dan.
They absolutely are. These are brilliant, brilliant couple of laps worth of performance, and there's more penalties for Infratic coming through. I think there may or may not have been a little bit of coordination there between him and Ben through the first corner. There's a bit of carbon fibre that has just completely been sent to the next postcode in the background as we watch on with this battle here then. I think that Rob is going to be just that little bit too far up the road here, but GB68 has very much got the opportunity now to get by Tom and get themselves that P2 position here. And so as we go here then, it's test radio. Tom's next, I can do it, says GB68. There we go, it's no longer test radio, it's GB68. Come on now then, GB, get yourself alongside, son. He's there, he's later on the brakes, and that then is GB68 up into P2 for this sprint race. But the driver has put barely a foot wrong, is coming through the final turn now. Rob will take victory, and in 3rd place will not be Benjamin Daly after a heroic late race drive, but instead Tom Da Bomb.
Yeah, a debut victory here for Rob, who manages to take it here at China, here in sprint race form, and now coming off the back of what he achieved back in F2, he's done it again in F1. It's Rob the victor here in the Shanghai sprint race. A truly remarkable performance. Obviously, despite not being able to box and go onto a faster set of tyres, he still managed to persevere, taking the sprint race victory. GB68, what a drive as well, going 2nd at the very depths of this one, managing to get past Tom coming out of turn 14. The Aston Martin now 2nd at the end of the sprint. Tom finishing 3rd. Tim and Marduk just could not quite close up to the former Creator Series champion. Tim and Marduk, of course, laying claim to that 4th place for the Ferrari outfit. Remember, starting from the back after he had that really unbelievable power cut. He managed to come back in true form, and magnificent performance. Chesnoid in 5th, Matty 6th, Tom 97 7th, with Perrier in 8th, Alex Gillen 9th, Meraki in 10th, Dave Gaming 11th, M-Skizy 12th, Noiguera in 13th, further down Curbs in 14th, Infratic 15th, and then we had the rest, Hayden Gullis, Elray Guri, Jorge Alberola, that guy Vince, and Zafso DNFing from this race. But certainly a truly remarkable ending to that sprint race. We really did have everything through the course of that one. Safety cars, of course, intervening. Now, I do want to lay down about that guy Vince. It's been made apparent, not that we knew at the time, that guy Vince apparently was suffering from some desync. So apologies goes out to him. Obviously, we all thought that he drove onto the racing line by accident. Obviously, I'm sure he didn't mean to do it on purpose, if he did. But no, it turns out desync was the affliction caused. Unfortunately, from the spectator's POV, we don't get to see that.
I mean, we don't, but I mean, I'm happy to see the replay again and see whether or not if there was input there on the accelerator moving forwards towards a racing line full of cars, then the point still stands. Really, at that point, you should have stayed on the brakes. If you'd then been hit into by another car, then yeah, you'd have been a stationary car and you'd been hit into, and there would have been no accusations thrown their way at all because nothing they would have been able to do. But the fact of the matter is, if the cars rolled forward and gone into a line of cars coming by, then I'm going to call a spade, I'm afraid.
Yeah. A lot of people as well observing your fantastic background as well, Daniel Gilligan. Phenomenal.
We're keeping up the tradition now.
The theme is continuing
of one crash per race weekend.
Goodness me.
So yeah, that's
we got the virtual version anyway. I suppose going through that sprint race. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, incredible. I want to say first and foremost, tremendous performance from Rob. I think coming into F1 certainly seems to have found his feet very early on. Whilst of course it's not yet the feature race, laying claim to some serious points in the sprint race can mean anything in terms of a championship, and also for someone such as he, who obviously is yet to perform, should we say, in the Creator Series at F1 level, that is certainly one way to make a statement in your Creator Series F1 debut.
Certainly is, absolutely, yeah. Very, very impressive bit of driving. I was impressed by a lot of drivers, really. I think that a lot of drivers also caught out by simulation damage. We've seen the sort of sends that we've maybe become accustomed to, that some drivers do complain about, with people sort of throwing one to the inside, bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, stuff like that. But then drivers quickly learning, I think, throughout that race that you can't do that with sim damage. If you do, then it causes you just so many more problems further down the line. Even if you may get that position, you'll end up losing loads more positions later on. I mean, the one example of that, I think, if I'm correct in saying, would be Fabio, because it looks to me as in the opening corners, they had all the pace in the world to maybe go on and take the lead of that sprint race, but then what looked to be a little bit of side-by-side contact, I think then resulted in damage, and then, they tumbled all the way down the order. They were all the way down towards the back.
Yeah, just another addition as well to all of this. Obviously, post-sprint race, we can talk about Tiamat Marduk's championship form right now. Of course, laying claim to P5. Well, certainly the result he did manage to achieve. In fact, it was P4 in the end. Managing to achieve 5 points off the back of that Chinese Grand Prix sprint race. It's now further strengthened his hold on the lead of the championship. He is now 20 points clear of M-Sky Z. And as a result as well, 25 points clear of Meraki down in third. So Tiamat Marduk getting closer and closer to that forefront. It looked like it was all doom and gloom coming off the back of the issues he sustained with the PC, obviously losing out in terms of power in order to actually run the game, but has now since come back and still managing to hold on to that championship advantage. 78 points now is what he has coming into qualifying and soon to be the feature race. If he keeps up this form, obviously just outscoring M-Sky Z at this stage is enough to hang on, but then you've got to factor in some of the other big chieftains, shall we say, of the F1 Creator Series that are very likely to score major points in this series as well, Dan. There's very likely going to be some twists and turns, even in the fragile ending to the season.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, it can all change immediately. I mean, it can change on a dime. One retirement can be all it can be between you and losing or winning a championship, depending on who the retirement is for. I mean, we think back over the years and how, we've got Formula One drivers of the present day, of times gone by, where, if not for one event in the season, then all of a sudden they're the champion. You think back to things like, of course, Monaco finishing early in 1984. If not for that, no half points awarded. Prost then in first or second would have had enough points to win the championship of 1984, not Niki Lauda. You look to more recent times, you've got things like 2010, Lewis Hamilton. There was a mess up in a pit stop in Spain. That then detached his wheel whilst he was out on circuit, and so then from a winning position, no points. And then you look at the end of the season, if he had another 25, he would have been champion in 2010. So if, all these sorts of things, they can all add up over time. So especially in a very short season, you've got less opportunity to build those points back again, that's then where things can end up being a big old problem for you. So yeah, it's all still very much to play for, even at this stage of the season.
Certainly is, and we can also check out and see what Gareth Allen's up to as well. Gareth, what's your verdict on that one? Obviously a very hectic sprint race, lots of action, to-ing and fro-ing right through from start to finish.
Yeah, there was a lot of action. I think the big talking point, of course, is that four-way collision involving that guy Vince really cascading down and causing conflict to others. I will do a little bit of a clip of that in just a moment of a different viewpoint of Elway Giri, but I think it'll be a regurgitation of the one we saw on broadcast at least. But I think the thing that was really interesting is going over line, GB68 was saying he was so confused why others didn't pit, because it just seemed like a really open strategy with that many people being took out in the backfield, that it would be, you'd be able to go onto softs, you'd be able to have 2 laps to go to the end. I think maybe a little bit of a factor of people watching the F2, and obviously in the F2 it's not a good idea to pit at the end of a sprint race with that far to go, but these F1 cars, just that much more powerful, able to use the fresher rubber that much more.
Yeah, that's the big debate, isn't it? Because at the same time, track position is imperative as well as being on the faster tyres. But we've got to look at the point of view that maybe Rob doesn't win the race if everyone else pitted. I mean, that's the difference maker, right? You could say that it was thanks to those that didn't box behind Rob that probably led to him actually winning that race.
Yeah, he had that safe buffer zone. You saw GB68 get into second place. He wasn't that far away from Rob. And I think you have to give a bit of a shout out to Rob, actually, because he's coming back from an injury. That's why he missed the first 3 races of the season, injuring a finger, which has stopped him from playing his rig. I was trying to catch whether he was actually on his rig or whether he was playing on controller. I think he was on it. He was certainly sitting behind a wheel, but they all will sit in their rig anyway. But yeah, it really is fine margins, and Rob will be, well deserving of the 8 points, but a little bit lucky that he actually did that. Let's have a little bit of a replay of that incident though, involving those 4 cars and just how it kind of unfolded, because it was of course Curbs who actually clipped the back of that guy Vince first, and this is of course the moment beforehand, Elway Giri and Curbs fighting together with Sky Z in the mix as well, and we saw Elway Giri lose that front wing through those double left-handers of turn 9 and 10, and that was just a knock with Yorpa there that caused that, Yorpa being our only reserve in for Raz and Shai today. But this is where we caught it from a broadcast. That guy Vince has already had a spin at the moment. Curbs is just going to knock him, and we did see it crawl forward a little bit, but Elway Giri going into the back of it, and unfortunately we missed those other 2 cars just go into it, but Dave Gaming did the absolute right thing here by parking it up and just driving it around and using some of his Euro Truck Simulator skills from last night to get around that melee, certainly.
Yeah, big respect to the Euro Truck Simulator. I've been there, I can tell you. But yeah, major moments, and certainly something that we've had to extrapolate and obviously learn a little bit more about, Dan. I mean, obviously it looked on first hand that obviously it was a moment where the car did creep onto the racing line. We do see it in the replay moving forward. Obviously, other extenuating factors leading to that moment.
Sorry, say all that again. You cut up halfway through.
Well, just looking back and revising, looking back at the replay at what that guy Vince actually went through in that brief moment. Obviously, we did witness the car moving forward slightly. That's no question. But obviously, looking back on it, obviously desync playing a factor. Not that we would have known at the time during being under spectator mode. And of course, we're not in the session. Of course, this is a produced broadcast that comes to us. So, it's a funny one, isn't it? I suppose it's just one of those moments where glitches come in, a little issue with the system, all of a sudden, a collision.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to see it from Vince's onboard again, because if they don't move forward at all on his on his screen, then of course, sure, you can then argue desync. But if there is movement, then you still move forward. You can have both desync and the fault of the driver as well. They're not mutually exclusive. So, I want to see both before end up maybe walking anything back, shall we say? Because again, it's our job to see things as they appear, and that's how they appeared. If there is other evidence out there, then show us the evidence. And that's the attitude I'm going to take. I don't care if I upset anybody in saying it. You can, and that's the thing. You can have the people that you are a fan of. That's perfectly fine. You can say what you like in support of your driver, but ultimately, if we see it one way, someone else sees it another, then there's going to be disagreement until such time as there is a consensus found and an agreement found. So again, if someone's able to forward that on, Gareth, if you've got that clip from earlier that we showed on the broadcast of Vince's POV, then go ahead and pop it in our production chat, and I'll have a review of it.
Well, I tell you what, we can go over it again in the broadcast. I'll just find myself and actually switch to it. But yeah, here's the clip that we had again, and I would agree there was just the slightest hint of going forward. But in the chaos with that corner, the thing I think here is, yes, he went forward, but I'm not sure with him not going forward, Curbs wouldn't have clipped him. Because if we see
absolutely
here,
not. So, if we pause it there, so we're full on the throttle there, and we're still going forwards. And at this point, you're spinning with the throttle fully applied. That's not sensible. You hold the brakes in the event of a collision. You've only just gotten spun around there, and as you can see, then we're still now full on the throttle. 2 cars have come past. You know more cars are coming. Why are you full on the throttle at that point? I'm not saying there was no desync. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that it can be both. There was desync that was ruining some drivers' races, yes, absolutely. But you've got a car that is going forwards when it should have either held the brakes or reversed. And that is my position. That's why I said what I said. And I'm not going to take it back, I'm afraid.
Yes, Meraki, I think, I just think the collision would have happened anyway. It's actually Meraki who clipped him, just to confirm that. But I think I agree. He should not be on the throttle. He should be on the brake, absolutely. But in those moments, I've made the same mistake before. It's easy.
Oh, sure. We've all made the
mistake.
We've all made the mistake. Absolutely, 100%. But at the same time, for people to come in and say he wasn't even there, he didn't do these things in the chat. I'm sorry, you're wrong. The evidence is there.
Dang it, we gave you a chance to roll it back. You're like, no, double down. This is my opinion.
Exactly. Double down.
That's what we love.
Show the clip, and then, as we see, again, I hold no ill will towards Vince after that. I would certainly hope they don't hold any ill will towards me. But it's one of these things where, desync or not, you shouldn't be driving in towards other cars that are coming past you.
Well, there we have it. There we are. We've taken a look at it. We've taken a look at it, folks. And let's be honest, cards on the table. I think it's pretty straight up that we've obviously seen what we've seen. Naturally, Vince was in a position, I think, where he was on track. Regardless, I agree with Gareth immensely. I don't think there was any way.
For sure. He was damned if he did, damned if he didn't.
Absolutely. There was just no way he could have got out of that. I think at the same time, obviously, you are right. I mean, generally, I would probably apply the brake if I was in a moment such as that. Wouldn't have necessarily keep my foot held down on the throttle, but it's one of those split-second reactions
for sure.
that happen, and it's a funny one. It's we could debate it all night, and I'm sure everyone has a different
100%.
opinion.
100%. We could, but the thing is as I said at the time, and I will reiterate again here, it's not a personal attack or anything like that. It's not a comment on them as a person. It's that in that moment, that was not the right thing to do. That was a silly thing to do. If they had held the brake and been crashed into, then I'd be 100% on their side, because they got hit up the back, they then spun round. If they'd then stayed where they were to stay out of the way of people and then been hit as a result, then of course, that is not on them in any way, shape or form. But it's the fact they move forward. That's then when you've got to apportion some blame.
Yeah, no, I think there is good reason, I think, to look at it like that, Dan. And obviously, this is why we have the ability. I love the current poll. Is Dan Gilligan right? Fantastic. Let us know in the live chat.
Of course I am.
Have your say on
I
whether
voted
Daniel
yes.
Gilligan's always. Let me double check. Let's see what
you can vote yes too.
I mean, to be fair, the votes are currently standing yes at 6. Only one person.
I've just voted no.
Oh, is it? That was Gareth Allen. Gareth Allen does not agree, everybody, with what Dan Gilligan's saying. Incredible. We've got infamy in the broadcast panel as we now watch as Matty D13 makes his way around the in-swinging turn 13 section. Now, just a reminder, folks at home, we have, of course, got intermediate tyre laps being run in the first 6 minutes of short qualifying. So when it strikes to the final 12 minutes, that is where it comes to an end. If they register an intermediate tyre lap that's faster, it will not count. So the fastest intermediate time needs to be laid down in the initial 6 minutes of qualifying, starting from the 18th, finishing down to the final 12, and then we'll decide who takes intermediate tyre pole. As we now watch Matty D13 make his way through towards turn 1. Have we got a lobby restart?
That, or we've got a number of drivers who are happy to simply not take part, or, there we go, it's straight into the wall. I have a sneaking suspicion the reason for this may be that maybe they've not changed the settings, so maybe we've gone into this qualifying session still with sim damage on, possibly. I don't know if that's the case or not, but yeah, it looks like we're headed towards a lobby restart.
Yeah, by the looks of it, it certainly is. Jorge Alberola has not got the message. He's going to continue and persevere out on a flying lap as we now watch him make his way out of the initial few corners.
Sorry, George. I've just seen the reason why we need a new lobby in the cooldown room. This is something I've never come across before. Apparently, the game has decided nobody gets ABS. Nobody.
Oh, right.
You're not allowed it. So for those drivers who may use ABS, that's a bit of a significant bumble for them to get around. But there we go. So that, I think, is why we're getting a lobby reset. Because if there's one problem, then there's, it's a video game. It's software. If there's one problem, there's likely going to be others. So we might as well restart it.
Hey, listen, no one's infallible. Certainly, the same can be said for technology in its own right as well. But we will get back going again, folks. We did have someone ask the question, just spotted you have a dartboard, George. What's your highest checkout? I can tell you that it's three figures, I think. I can't remember what my highest checkout was. I think it was like a 143 or something like that, I think, from years gone by. But yes, I do love my darts as well as my sim racing and motorsport as well. But yeah, big thank you to each and every single one of you as well that are tuned in to this broadcast here, the EA F1 Creator Series. Please make sure, if you haven't done so already, we've got social media that you can see, all the links, the tags, in fact, just listed above. If you're watching on Twitch, by the way, big warm welcome to each and every single one of you. Hit that follow button as well. Stay up to date with whenever we go live. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that big fancy red subscribe button and also leave a like as well. We will be bringing you qualifying very shortly. And if you want to check us out on social media, at F1 Creator Series, that is where you can find us on social media, and you can check that out on Instagram, Twitter, as well as TikTok, where lots of reels get posted, lots of content for you guys to enjoy. And obviously, as the drivers now have a breather here, Daniel, they can reset, much like the game is going to reset. We will have ABS, so don't panic. And I'm sure if you're Matty D13, you're going to be jumping for joy. But yeah, looking forward to this one. It's going to be great. Obviously, off the back of the sprint race, great chance for some of the drivers to reassess, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of reassessment going on. I think that there's... I also want to just highlight there's a bit of love coming in for you right now, George, other than from me, obviously.
Is there?
Yes. Zebrazak07 says, congratulations on doing F1 esports, George, or F1 sim racing, as it happens to be now.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. It was an honour to be selected again, and it's a privilege. Obviously, I made my debut on that show last year, so it was quite nice to return. And I'm not sure whether I'll be back for Event 3, but we'll wait and see. But I
hope you are.
I would like to be. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun. And I got to work with Creator Series' very own Hayden Gullis as well. So it was.
Who's that? I've never heard of him.
He's the big tall one.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
actually racing in this championship, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You wouldn't know it from that race, but yeah, it's.
No, it's.
I'll just make enemies of everybody's chat today. We've already had some people jumping in, presumably from Vince's chat, saying that we should be cancelled for having an opinion. I like it as we should be cancelled as well, George. Not me. I'm taking you down with me, apparently. But
is that what they're saying?
That's what someone said before a mod timed out their message. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, let's just go ahead and start insulting everybody, shall we? And then get all of their chat coming in here. It's just more views for the channel, really. I mean, I don't care. The race happens either way. But there we go. I love a bit of drama, me, as we all know.
Listen, guys, if you want to sink Dan Gilligan, sink him as much as you like. As long as I'm safe, that's okay. Get me the lifeboat to the island, please. Yeah, incredible. I've been watching a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, so there we are. That's why that came out. But yeah, look, parlay, yes, parlay chat, parlay.
Why is the rum always gone? It's because George Brogan drinks it before the broadcast.
Clearly, yeah. I have today. It's been a strange start to the Creator Series broadcast. Everybody, we've had all sorts, haven't we?
When is it not, George?
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, this prime content, Dan Gilligan. Prime content. That's what we're all about.
We do this for content.
Do we? well, I'm not sure whether we as commentators are supposed to, but the drivers certainly are. Yeah, incredible. Yeah, as you can hear, well, you might be able to hear, but I can certainly hear there's a lot of activity going on with the engines in the background. So whether that's them getting ready for, I think that's a dummy race at this point. So we'll be heading straight into qualifying action very soon as the lobby sorts itself out. But looking ahead, obviously, we've witnessed a great sprint race. We look back at some of the incidents. Rob coming in off the back of F2, moving into F1, getting himself into a position where he is now a race winner. Dan, can he transfer that sprint race victory into a feature race victory?
I mean, in theory, yes, anybody can. If they're able to win once, then you can win again. But the issue, of course, that I would highlight as far as Rob's potential to win this feature race is concerned is, of course, we've got to get qualifying done first of all. We need to see how their qualifying form, therefore, shakes out compared to those full-time drivers who've been in the series up until now. And the other thing as well is that we've got to see now how they're able to play it with the big boys who come in. We've got now the likes of Ben, GB, Tom, etc. All those drivers who had started much lower down and came through the field towards the end of the race. What's going to happen now that they have an equal footing with Rob? Now that they get the opportunity to qualify and fight for the same bit of grid position as them, and what else will happen as well when you take into account things like, you get things like the drivers, who start to go wheel to wheel, who haven't gone wheel to wheel before. When are you going to sort of, if you have Rob going up against Ben, Tom, GB, etc., those drivers I've just mentioned, if it's the first time that they're going wheel to wheel with them, are they going to be super aggressive and try and sort of essentially say, hey, I'm the new boy and I'm here to stay? Or are they going to be a bit more timid and a bit more sort of, oh no, after you, sir? And that sort of a thing. So, it could be one, the other, it could be anywhere in between. Who knows?
Absolutely right. Well, I can tell you one person we can speak to is M Sky Z. We can have a little chat with him right now. He's going to join us in the commentary box. Sky Z, welcome. Usually someone we speak to after the race, but we thought we'd drag you in now and get some insight. How did you find the sprint race? What's the vibe around China?
The vibe is terrible among the drivers.
Goodness me. Okay.
I mean, it was a fun race, very cautious from everyone, apart certain people. But yeah, it was very different from what we got usually. It was fun. Sadly for me, the safety car was not a good thing because I stayed out with the old mediums. So I was cooked by everyone on the soft. So yeah, tough luck for me, but I think there is more important thing in this race that need to be talked about, which I won't do. But yeah, it was a fun race. And,
come on, guys, indulge us. What can't you speak about? Come on.
I think it's not good to get a lap guy slowing down everyone except one guy. So should be banned for next race, in my opinion. But that's not me doing the rules. But
spicy.
Sit tight.
We like spicy.
We like spicy from Sky Z.
I like the guy. I really like the guy. But what he did today is not good for the other races.
Interesting.
Make that what you will, chat. But yeah, obviously, Sky Z, looking ahead to the qualifying session. I mean, coming off the back of the sprint, it's kind of set you back a little bit because obviously when we talk about the championship, things of that nature, Tim Marduk now has strengthened his hold on the championship lead. 20 points now between the pair of you. What's the mission in quali? Obviously, we know how good your one-lap pace is. What's your view heading into the feature race?
Well, pole plus the win, if possible. My pace is usually very good around China. I won last time. So yeah, I will try to reproduce the same kind of performance. So yeah, I have good hope, but we'll see with the safety cars and so on. Everyone can win this race, so we'll see. Obviously, yeah, 20 points deficit from my side, but I think Chamet Marduk is missing next race, which can be a good thing for me. So we'll see, but yeah, eyes forward to this race. I really like this track. I'm prepared to give a go for the win, and yeah, we'll see with the other guys who is the quickest.
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead to this one, obviously with the idea that Tim Marduk is going to miss the next one, does that bring, a higher level of importance upon a great result here at China?
Yeah, I can tell you the pressure is very high on me. I usually put a lot of pressure on my shoulders, maybe more than what I should, but today, very, very, very high pressure on me. If I don't win, or if a Chamet is ahead of me, that's very tough for the rest of the season.
Well, there you have it. I mean, Skyzy, we're looking forward to seeing it. This race, we just turned the amp up to 11 here at this point. Incredible. Thank you, Skyzy, so much for joining us here in the commentary box. We wish you all the best for qualifying.
See you. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Skyzy, everybody. Phenomenal character, incredible human being, Dan. A brilliant success rate here in the F1 Creator Series to a certain degree. Almost criminal that he's yet to win a title, given that he's already gone so close. But spoke very matter of fact about what happened in the sprint race.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm in two minds about it personally. I on the one hand, I agree. It's not particularly good when a lapped car is getting involved in a race at the front, and that's then benefiting their teammate and only their teammate. However, it does also make for good viewing. I mean, like, you know, it's not exactly something that has never happened before either. When you look to the world of Formula One, again, we're going to just showcase a bit of my geekery here. But you go back to the sort of the late 80s, early 90s. You had, I believe it was Keke Rosberg in the Williams. He'd been tapped by Ayrton Senna in a fight where it was Senna versus the two Williams, and then he has to go into the pits. He has to get a new front wing. He then comes out the pits and waits. And he waits until the other Williams and Senna come along, and then he gets between them, and he deliberately holds Senna up for as long as possible because he's been involved in an incident with him. Now, I'm not saying that Fabio was involved in an incident with anybody there, and that was somehow retribution or anything like that. Far from it. I think it was just a clever tactical play to try and then get his teammate, and therefore his team, as many points as possible in the Constructors' Championship. But it's interesting. I mean, ultimately, if he's really far down the order like he is, and he's then getting the blue flags and everything else, he's got nothing to lose by doing that. If his race is done, he's got nothing to lose. Of course, he'll then start getting penalties, which were starting to be dished out by the game, and eventually that will get him disqualified. But of course, you know, it's not it's maybe not the most sportsmanlike thing to be doing, let's be completely honest. I mean, it's also one of those things where ultimately, if he is all the way back there, then is he going to be on older dead tyres? If he was, then how did the quick drivers not simply just go around him? You know, things like that. If I were to throw the gauntlet down to them and say, get better, that's, you know, it's controversial, I know. But
well, I'm going to join you in the fiery pits here, Daniel. I think it was absolutely diabolical what Fabio did. What a horrendous human being that man truly is. If you get that reference, by the way, folks, be sure to check out and watch on YouTube. But yeah, incredible. Yeah, I mean, horrendous. I'm joining you on this one, Dan. Joined at the hip. But yeah, looking forward to short qualifying. Swiftly moving on, everybody, as we now get back underway. Remember, first 6 minutes, it's all about the intermediate tyres. We're now back again with Matty D13 as he now makes his way down this straight. Of course, DRS would usually be enabled heading down this portion of track before you then venture in towards turn 11 and then through turn 12 and 13 where you go down the mega long straight, which takes you through towards turn 14. So they've got now only a small matter of time to land an intermediate tyre pole position in order to take those vital points. As soon as it hits the 12 minutes to go mark, that is where it comes to an end, Dan.
Absolutely, that is where it shall finito, as someone somewhere in the world probably says. I don't know who. But as it is then, round the final turn we are about to go with Matty D. First, the drivers who's going to be able to start off a lap, and it will be on the intermediate tyre, of course, for the intermediate championship. And so let's see just how this one plays out. DRS open at the rear wing of that McLaren, and then into the first corner we go. Now, of course, this is one of those corners where they can't really lean on the tyres as much as they would have liked to during the first pass of the lap here, because they've got those intermediates on in dry conditions. We've now cut away from that to see that we've got 3 drivers all occupying basically the same bit of real estate here. We've got who's this? We've got GB, we've then got one of the Alpines just ahead of them as well, that's Tom, and then a Haas, and then, oh goodness gracious me, what is going on there? Suddenly, The AlphaTauri just decided, do you know what? We're going for a nice leisurely Sunday drive. And look at all of the flowers over on the left-hand side. And so on. I don't know. Anyway, back to Matty D. And we're headed through the fast sweepers at the moment then. Now through that part of the circuit where we saw a bit of bashing and dicing between the drivers earlier on in the real-world sprint race. And I'm sure we'll see even more fighting in that area of the circuit tomorrow in the Grand Prix as well. So come out through here then, this corner, this is a tricky one even on dry tyres. You can't fully pin the throttle and then just go for it. It will start to step out the back end for you, particularly if you're running a low drag setup, which in a circuit like this, you want to be as low drag as possible for this enormous, great big long back straight. DRS will be open once again on the back of the McLaren. We're going to go all the way down now towards this very important heavy braking zone. Maybe a little bit cautious there from Matty D, but it's better to be cautious and safe than not cautious and off into the next part of the country. At the exit of the corner there, through the final turn, up towards the line then. This is going to be our first time of the session and our first intermediate time of the session, and I think that's a 1:36 something, but honestly, on the screen that we're watching here, George, that's too small for me to even read.
I'm joining you in that camp too, mate. There we have it. Yeah, incredible. I mean, this has been a truly bizarre day, obviously, at this point. So I'm going to try and settle in. Somehow I managed to dream up a DRS straight out of turn 10 in towards turn 11. So, yeah, this has been one of those days, folks. But sit tight. I promise you this roller coaster will get smoother very soon indeed. Tim Marduk now going fastest of anybody with a 1:35.833 ahead of Alex Gillen, who is now in second. Tom 97 in third. Matty D13 in fourth. As M Sky Z now goes to the top with now Dave Gaming, who's not abiding by the intermediate tyre rule here at this stage, immediately plants a lap on soft tyres onto the board with a 1:31.571. Obviously, we've yet to see the rest of the grid issue soft tyre times. Hayden Gullis out and about on inters as well, making his way out of turn 13 and will very soon tackle the long straight heading in towards turn 14. His teammate, El Guri, fresh off the back of losing his front wing earlier on after coming together with GB68, goes sixth fastest with a 4.5 second gap between he and Dave Gaming right at the very front. Certainly not the fastest into time that we've seen. M Sky Z still holding on to that right now, but Hayden Gullis be looking to add his time to the board. Meraki also out on the lap as well, and has set some reasonable times in the first and second sector. Let's see what Hayden Gullis can bring to the table. Goes 11th fastest in the immediate. That won't be troubling M Sky Z at all over his intermediate tyre time, but my eyes instantly look to Meraki, who just goes second of the intermediate tyre runners. M Sky Z still holding on to that fastest time right now. Still a healthy gap between he and Meraki here at this point. So it's M Sky Z who will take the intermediate tyre points should this remain as it is.
Absolutely. As we continue to watch them then, making their way through at this stage, we've got battling out on the circuit now between two drivers on the intermediates. That's Tom getting shown the door there by GB, I believe it was. And that then is going to massively compromise his lap. It seems as though the pair of them have just tripped over each other. I mean, you could have honestly known that for free, seeing where they were when they started off their laps as well. There's now a bit of bumping and barging going on too between the AlphaTauri and the Aston Martin down the back straight here. This must all be for content at this point, surely. This can't be serious times being put on the board or setting up for a serious lap at all here. As they come through then, out the final turn. GB now at the back of this trio as they go through the final turn. Then GB's off into the pits. Tom has gone round to carry on and try and get another lap in, presumably. But yeah, no idea what has gone on there. A bit of a controversial one in a race weekend full of controversy. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is that we seem to have up in the top left there. It says Q1. Have we got full qualifying going on?
No, I think that's just what they call it, I think, at this point, Dan. It always pops up over short quali.
See, I was always under the impression a short quali was just Q, but if it is always been Q1, then I've just never noticed that until now.
Yeah, no, it's caught me out in the past as well. But yeah, no, incredible. So we have a few cars that have still yet to set times. Jorge Alberola, who has not decided to come out on a set of intermediates. I can tell you that M Sky Z has taken the fastest time on the intermediate tyres. So congratulations goes to him. He takes Inter's pole here on this occasion. Infratic now making his way on the track. Pointless setting a lap on these tyres right now because it will not count towards the intermediate tyre championship as he now makes his way in towards the next left. It is now come down to the soft tyres here as we now await the cars to make their way out. Tom 97 on an out lap on softs, as is Matty D13. Gareth, have you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm just listening into the conversation about Tom and GB, and they're all just having a bit of fun, a bit of a battle. Emphatic did something, and he said, "I'm more sorry about that than I was the sprint race thing." So, looking to make friends within the Creator Series, certainly. Yeah, I think MSkyZ has... We've got 43 seconds left of them setting times, but I don't see anyone actually out on a pair of intermediates who will go and beat that time. Maybe Yorpa here, but yeah, we'll have to see. I don't think he's going to make it round to it. So I think, yeah, MSkyZ has got that point.
This definitely stands as one of the most bizarre league races I think I've ever commentated on in the history of me commentating the F1 game. I think it has to be said. It'll go down in my memory as that anyway. Jorge Alberola making his way around on Inters as well. Obviously this lap again will not count towards the Inters pole as such, but it'd be great to see where Jorge stacks against the likes of MSkyZ as he now makes his way down the straight. I was alluding to his career initially, of course, early on before he was a high-ranking content creator. He was, of course, a very competitive driver that's competed against the likes of Jarno Otmir, Danny Berejne, as well as Barry Burraman, names that you would generally see in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, but has now since transition, makes his way towards the line, goes third fastest, just in behind MSkyZ. In fact, 6/10 the difference between the pair. Of course, remember those SkyZ now on soft tyres, making his way out on an outlap, but still a great time and a statement of pace on the part of Jorge Alberola. As we now watch that guy Vince, fresh off the back of that terrible moment during the sprint race where we saw him come unstuck. In fact, heading through that middle sector, he's now in the middle sector again, but this time heading down into that very tight hairpin at turn 6. He'll now rush out through towards turn 7, lighting things up here, representing the team from Faenza in the Alpha Tauri as he now sweeps through turn 8. Next up will be turn 9, where he'll then venture down a semi-straight, which takes him up towards turn 11 once again, where of course he did come unstuck in our previous race. But that guy Vince, unperturbed, currently sat 13th fastest. This will be his first representative time on soft tyres. Looking composed here, a little grimace of the teeth as well, as he looks to hook up the Delta here, Dan.
Absolutely, this is looking a very good lap so far. This could be very much redemption for what happened earlier on, and they're going to get a bit of a tow there from their teammate as well. That's going to give them just that little bit of extra Delta V all the way down towards the hairpin. And as they get into that braking zone now then, in the real world we've seen drivers braking at 100 meters there. Massive amount of deceleration available in these modern Formula 1 cars, and as they go out onto the exit there then through the final turn, this looks like a very neat and tidy lap so far. How's it going to be when they come across the line? It's going to be the provisional pole time. It's a 1:30.9 for that guy Vince.
Yeah, but hold the phone. Tom 97 purple in sectors 1 and sectors 2, setting a very reasonable first sector indeed, a 23.712, which is in fact a few tenths faster than Dave Gaming, who currently sits in second. Tom, no doubt, going to the top with a 1:30.525, but Tim at Marduk has just upped the ante in his own right and has just taken the purple first sector now away from Tom 97. So our current championship leader currently sat P10 in the standings. There is our current live standings in terms of the championship side of things. 78 points to Tim at Marduk at the head of the title race. As now watching MSkyZ make his way around this time. A 27.1 on part of TM at Marduk is a personal best in Sector 2 as well. That first sector could be the difference maker as he now makes his way down this very long straight, one of the longest straights you'll see in Formula 1 in fact, as he now opens up the DRS and hurtles down towards turn 14, brushing past some of the cars that are out on cool down and of course outlaps as well. There's now Tim at Marduk, the Aussie, of course already a race winner this campaign, has in fact been on the podium in 3 different positions already since the start of the season. Brazil coming second, Japan coming third. Is he going to put himself to the top this time here at China? He'll go second fastest, just under, or just over, should I say, 0.3 of a second away from Tom 97. MSkyZ, second in the title race as well. Goes fastest of anybody with a brilliant time indeed. Going purple in that second sector. Personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 3. SkyZ hitting the heights at the top of these standings right now.
Absolutely, yeah, going very well indeed. In an interview earlier on, of course, he said he puts the pressure on himself. He wants to always do his best, and when there is more pressure, then there's even more pressure. But when it comes to the pressure so far, clearly it's not affecting him at all. There, a great lap from MSkyZ to go that much quicker than everybody else. We've got Safso having just left the session. I'm sure they'll rejoin in the fullness of time and get themselves out there for another attempt. Currently, all the way down 17th, though, of course, only with their Inters time on the board, so that or an incredibly slow soft time, but I have a sneaky suspicion it's the Inters time instead. We've got Meraki on screen at the moment, then one of just 3 drivers who have got their cameras submitted for today, so for all the rest of them, boo on you, sir, boo on you. But as far as this lap is concerned then, Jake looking calm and collected, so calm and collected, he takes one hand off the wheel as he makes his way down
hard
the
tyres
back
as well.
straight. And he's got hard tyres on. Exactly. Yeah, very good point indeed. Right, I guess then this is another one of those races where Jake just decides to do whatever he wants to do, really, and we'll see where he ends up at the end. But as it is, then let's see what a hard tyre is capable of doing. He's not going to be able to get himself back in and around again on soft, surely. Oh, no, he is going in to the pit, so maybe he'll get himself back out there in time. But it's going to be cutting it a little bit fine. You've got 1.5 minutes is a fast lap, so you take into account with ERS off to keep it all charged up and so on. You're probably going to be looking at somewhere between minute 35, minute 40. And then, of course, you're going to have to jump out the way of anybody as well. That happens to be, what on earth is going on here? But you're then going to have to jump out of anybody's way who is on a hot lap, like the Red Bull that's just gone through there. No, never mind, that's going into the pits. Yeah, it's a bizarre thing anyway, yes. So what are we talking about? I don't know. Cars. Vroom.
Cars go broom, I think, at this point, Dan. I think that's what we're talking about at this point. Yeah, just witnessing Tom overstretching it a little bit, heading down towards turn 14. Did recover back onto the track, so he will no doubt come straight back in, you would expect, to put on a soft set of tyres, just to enlist a faster time. He's currently 15.3 off the top. SkyZ still fastest of anybody. Tom 97 out on an outlap. We're currently seeing Dave Gaming also out on an outlap as well. So it's all calm out on track right now. Only a sprinkling of cars now currently making their way around this Shanghai circuit. Tom has actually continued out on his intermediate, so has decided not to come back in for a softer set, well, certainly a slick set of tyres, which is very interesting indeed. The car still remains out and about, so he is not going to have enough time to set a faster run. So Tom definitely going to be starting from the back of the grid at this rate, and curbs being on the softs should no doubt jump him should he set a valid lap, as we now watch Dave Gaming make his way around the final corner to now usher in his final fast lap, you'd figure, heading up through towards turn 1. Currently sat in the top 10, and Dave Gaming, who has been around now for a considerable amount of time in the F1 Creator Series, someone who is no stranger to achieving top 10s, finished P8, or certainly finished with 8 points to his name at Brazil. And after that as well, 8 points at Japan in race 2 alike. We'll be looking for yet more points this time around. Missed out on the fan-voted race last time, and looking to come back here at China in the most positive fashion possible, as GB68 gets disqualification going the wrong way. Again, I say it, Dan, the most bizarre race I've ever commentated on in my history of F1 League racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there, certainly. What on earth was that? Was that GB? I think that was GB's, GB's car there that's being disqualified. It was just sat there in the middle of the road. Well, that was incredibly stupid, wasn't it? See, I'm fair to everybody. But they're all incredibly equal in their stupidity. It just happens to be that was the AI that time. But there we go. So apparently wants to start from the back then, is what we're being told for GB. Why they would want to do that when they've not won a Grand Prix in Creator Series, I don't know. But maybe they're just incredibly confident. Maybe they know something that we don't.
We've really brought out the vicious streak here this evening. But
I don't know what you're on about. This is the real me, George. This is just what I'm here to say. This is what I've always been like. I've been holding back for all of you, and now this is what happens.
For the past few seasons, we've witnessed the funny, happy, come to life Dan Gilligan. Now this time we're witnessing the demon that is Dan Gilligan here this evening here at the China circuit. But yes, warm welcome to each and every single one of you that have tuned in to this broadcast here tonight. Peya, who are currently riding on board with, barely missing the car that's travelling slowly down the long straight. That could have been another moment that would have been painful to witness, as now Peya heads through towards the final bends, coming through 15 and 16. Let's see what the Alfa Romeo Sauber can initialize onto this timing screen. Can he go closer to M Sky Z? He does, in fact, fourth fastest. Good lap indeed for him. Tom 97 still remains second. Timit Marduk in third. A few other cars improving on their laps. Chesnoy being one of them, as well as Tom 97, who has ushered in PBs in sectors 1 and sectors 2. So likely going to be a threat here to M Sky Z up at the front as he now comes across the line. Does go fastest, but that will be for a brief moment. He went purple in sector 3. I can tell you that M Sky Z has gone purple in the first sector. So he is looking to improve yet again. Here comes Infratic, of course, very much involved as he now goes into the top 10 in trying to obtain Timit Marduk a very successful run in our sprint race earlier on. We heard the comments from M Sky Z earlier, as now we witness Matty D13 make his way out of the hairpin. M Sky Z, like I said, went fastest in the first 2 sectors in his final run. Here comes Matty D13 now towards the line. He jumps into the top 10, 9th fastest, goes to the McLaren. Rob, though, running very wide on the exit, coming out of 15 and 16. He'll remain 7th fastest, but all eyes on M Sky Z. Personal bests in the first and second sector. I can tell you Noiguera's gone purple. Sky Z goes fastest, but Noiguera has gone purple in the first 2 sectors, looking for an improvement. Here comes Timit Marduk. Alex Gillen, his rival, goes 3rd fastest. Timit Marduk can't improve from 4th. Stays in 4th. Noiguera now to the top after setting an initial purple first and second sector. He has now pushed M Sky Z off the top, who has now been relegated to second. Noiguera now fastest. Here comes Hayden Gullis. He can only go 16th fastest. Peya, though, has already finished his lap. He's currently 8th fastest. It's Noiguera who goes fastest of anybody. He's on pole for this Shanghai race in the EA F1 Creator Series.
Absolutely fantastic climax to qualifying there. Really, really good indeed. Must say, big props as well to M Sky Z. Usually a driver who, we've said it before many times, you know, is able to do a brilliant first run at the end of a qualifying session, but then as we then see them go for a second run, it tends not to be an improvement, but it just so happens to be that first lap is so good so often that they're able to get themselves a pole or a good result anyway. This time, second lap was an improvement, managed to get ahead of Tom 97, but just missing out on the pole there. Noiguera, I must say, real standout star of qualifying this season for me. Lots and lots of pace in that Mercedes car, which the same can't really be said in the real world.
Well, I mean, he sold himself short to a certain degree, given the fact that, you know, he is someone who can be sensational as well during the course of a race. He is so quick, carries a lot of natural pace, but we've yet to really see it come to fruition for him. Has finished in the points numerous times across this campaign, but really should be someone who is fighting for wins, podiums, you know, and the major points, essentially trying to challenge for the championship, in my own personal view. But an amazing performance. Just look at the top 3, all within a 10th of a second. In fact, all 3 within 51 thousandths of a second, which is truly remarkable. And that's the sort of thing you generally see as well, where it comes to professional sim racing as well, even F1 sim racing to boot, where you see the top 9 are all within the same 10th of a second. But here's the results, folks. Noiguera, fastest of anybody, pole position here for this Chinese Grand Prix in the F1 Creator Series. M Sky Z comes home in second, thought he had it, just lost it in the final moments. Tom 97 in third, Meraki 4th fastest after what we saw earlier on. We saw him on the hards, he very quickly changed to the softs and managed to bring out a top 4 place. El Rey Guri 5th, Alex Gillen 6th, Timit Marduk 7th, Peya in 8th, that guy Vince 9th, Rob 10th, Infratic 11th, Matty D13 12th, Chesnoy Gaming 13th, Curbs in 14th, Dave Gaming 15th, Hayden Gullis in 16th, Jorge Alberola in 17th, Zapso 18th, Tom 19th, GB68 not setting a time, disqualifying himself and starting from the back. So there you have it, folks. Those are your drivers taking part in the race that we've got to come now very, very shortly. Daniel Hunt, give us your take, please.
It was, yeah, that was a great qualifying session. It was really good. I've got a wet right ear for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, really, really good qualifying session. I absolutely love that. The close fight at the end. We didn't have people messing about with doing an Inters tyre run as their last time. We had everybody out there on the softs. It's a good rule change. I'm glad that it was made. Yeah, it's back to its best. Creator Series qualifying where the top 3 drivers are separated by less than 1/10 of a second. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it truly was. The top 3 being so close and manacled together, essentially. I mean, what an end to qualifying. Noiguera, the standout. I think that goes without saying, Dan. I think off the basis of that sensational first 2 sectors, actually toppling MSkyZ initially. While it looked like it was toppling MSkyZ, it was actually the final sector, which was imperative for Noiguera. According to our telemetry, it was indeed 2 purple first sectors for Noiguera. But it turns out MSkyZ did have the first 2 purple sectors, and it was the final sector for Noiguera that made all the difference. So just goes to show fine margins, Dan, that make a difference across a lap.
Yeah, incredibly fine margin. It can be so much. It's just little tiny bits here and there. You can be gaining some time in this area, but then you'll be losing it somewhere else. Unless you're on one of those absolute nirvana laps where you're able to just hook everything up. But even then, you listen to the legends, you listen to Senna, you listen to Hamilton, you listen to other Formula One drivers of times gone by or of today's world. There's no such thing as the perfect lap in reality. There is a theoretical perfect lap, but drivers are never going to hit the perfect lap because, to get philosophical for a moment, we are human beings, we are imperfect creatures, and therefore we are incapable of perfection. So
you don't have to explain yourself to us, Daniel.
I know, darling. I just thought I'd remind you all.
Incredible. Well, I tell you what, for some sanity on this broadcast, let's go and speak to Gareth Allen. Gareth, what's your take on qualifying? Who stood out for you, and what are your thoughts heading into this Grand Prix?
I mean, Nogueira with his second pole is an obvious standout. I mean, 3 temps in that final sector he took out of MSkyZ. A mistake by MSkyZ, that must have been in the final sector, really. But you do have that long straight, so that may indicate actually that MSkyZ is not carrying as much weight, is carrying more wing, than the others. So that could leave him a little bit hampered in the race. Just a few notes about the race: 3 stops, 2 stops are suggested strategies. I was just looking at the gallery there, and yeah, quite a lot of people deciding between the 2. I think it will all come down to safety cars, and Tom97 there is taking the alternate route around there. He's taking the service road. So yeah, anyway, I'll throw this over to you. I'm really excited for you two to bring this race.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Thank you so much, Gareth. And like all of us here, as I'm sure you all are, looking forward to this race. Let us know who your selections are. We want to see your predictions in the live chat. Put your keyboard to work, or your keypad on your phone, or whatever, wherever or however you're watching us here this evening. Also, why not share it on social media? Make sure you tag F1 Creator Series as well. Tell us about who you're looking forward to seeing take victory, or who you think is going to take victory here at this point. But like I said, use the live chat. That's what it's all about. Dan, your take, please. Who's winning here at Shanghai?
One of the drivers.
Thank you, Daniel Hunt, for that really sensational bit of insight punditry. Incredible. I can tell you that the chat has actually gone ahead and said that one of the drivers will win. They've actually opted for Ben Daly, most of them. Zabrazak has come out and said Ben Daly. We've got Toby Hammond saying Tiamet, and we've got Let's Go Ben from Hugh Chains as well. Keep them coming, everybody, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Twitch. We want to hear from you. We've got Alpine Parade, says Merrin. You could be right. You could be absolutely right. Crazy Casper said, I think Jake will win. We've got Charles saying Ben. We've got My Money is on Meraki, says Brandon Sedge. We've got Gillen, GB, and Ben in that corner, says Diablo. Biarbs is saying 97. I assume that means Tom. Alex in the Mud says Zebrazak. GB lost at first. Who knows? Could you imagine if GB wins this race? I mean, what a way to win your first Creator Series race, Dan Gilligan.
It would be awesome, and for that reason I would love to say GB, but because I live in the real world, I'm going to say that actually I'm going to back Noiguera for a win here today. I think it's been a very, very impressive qualifying from them, and hopefully if they can hold it all together in the race, it'll be a first race victory for them, or would that not be their first? I'm not entirely certain.
Well, in terms of GB, it would be his first. I think off the back of remember the bottle going back at Vegas.
Oh yeah, no. I know it would definitely be GB's first, but would it be Noiguera's first if they?
Oh, Noiguera's. Good question. I'll have to relook the data. But we have got cars lining up onto the grid. If you want more of Dan Gilligan, he does have a podcast, everybody. Be sure to check that out. But we do have all the drivers now lined up for the start of the race here at Shanghai. Here come the lights. All 5 of them lit. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. Noiguera gets away well. So does Skyzy. Running side by side through turn 1. Skyzy sticking to that inside. It will work out for him through the second part of this corner as he makes his way through turn 2. Turn 3 coming up next. But Noiguera with the favourable inside. But it'll mean nothing heading down the long stretch, or at least for Noiguera. It will maintain the lead for him. But contact between Gillen and Skyzy as they make their way out of turn 4 through towards turn 5. It's Noiguera who leads, and immediately down the inside comes El Reguiri. He and Skyzy make contact. That is something we've seen time and time again through the course of the Creator Series. Luckily enough, though, no casualties. It's Noiguera who leads, Gillen second, Skyzy in third.
Absolutely interesting here that we've got a couple of cars running on the hard tyre, including the 2 on screen right this particular moment in time. Ben Daly on board, Tom 97 just in front of them, both running hards. You've got the majority of the cars around them running mediums, but then you do have those like Alex Gillen who've gone for the softs as well. So we've got a real mixture of strategies here. If we get no safety cars, then it's going to be really interesting to see how everybody comes together at the end. I think, though, that for Skyzy, I'm not sure. We'll have to see a replay, but from my gut reaction of looking at that and watching motorsport for 24 years, I think that with the Alex Gillen and, oh crikey, look at this, Alex Gillen takes the lead away from Noiguera there. Well, that was easily done, but just back to finish the point, Skyzy and Alex Gillen, I think that Skyzy was maybe just a bit too eager on the throttle and on the overtake button, and then had an oversteer moment. I don't think that there was contact between them that caused the sideways moment for Skyzy, but that's the gut reaction. I would need to see a replay to be absolutely certain.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Alex Gillen now in the lead. Remember, he started P6. What a start he had. Putting those soft tyres to work immediately. El Reguiri also now once again going wheel to wheel with Skyzy. Certainly we've seen many tussles in the past between these two, harking back to what happened last season where they tied up back at Saudi Arabia. Of course, that ended in tears as well for both drivers. Looking back at Bahrain as well, there's been many encounters even prior to that. Jorge Alberola also moving up. Rob now dropping down as Tom now moves up into 12th. GB68 also on the move, and he started at the back, remember, Dan? He's up to P12.
Yeah, I was going to say that was where the sudden just noise. I was going to try and find a more intelligent word there, but yeah, just the noise I made there as we saw GB's name skyrocketing its way up the timing tower. It's a very impressive start to the race for them to be up from last place in 13th now. And, well, I tell you what then, I might be regretting my words later on when it comes to saying that I live in the real world, because right now, GB seems to be putting on the performance very much of the real world. This is brilliant.
Obviously feeling confident here at this Shanghai circuit. Tom 97 on the attack as well. Speaking of confidence, wheel to wheel now with Peya. Of course, Tom 97, someone who is so familiar with competitive competition in league racing now as they go side by side in towards turn 14. Peya can only forfeit this one. Tom 97 now takes it away from him and now moves up to 6th place with now the sole McLaren existing in the top 10. His teammate Matty D13 with lots of work to do. 10 places below him as Alex Gillen takes the fastest lap of the race. DRS now active here on lap 3 of 56. There is Noiguera, reduced to second. Now, keenly enough, Skyzy flirting with DRS, 1.1 seconds in behind Noiguera. He can't afford to get away from him here, Dan, because if he loses DRS, Noiguera's going to get it off Alex Gillen, and that'll leave Skyzy vulnerable to El Reguiri in behind.
Yeah, if Noiguera gets DRS from Alex Gillen and the pair of them start to just pull away from that group behind, then I think you would have to say that Noiguera would then be looking in the best position to actually go on and win this race, because yes, they would be in second place, but they're on those tyres that will go much, much longer than Alex Gillen's is soft. So there we are. That's something which we need to keep an eye on there, particularly that gap, as you say, between Skyzy and Noiguera. It's now down at just about a second. It's flirting this way and that, back and forth. It looks a bit more healthy now for Skyzy, but it's all about the braking into this next corner. It's the line you might just be able to see the bottom of the picture there. There goes Noiguera. There goes Skyzy. I think he was within it there, George.
Yeah, he certainly was. He's managed to lay claim to that DRS that will allow him to get closer and closer to the back of Noiguera. Needed it as well. Couldn't afford to lag behind, at least for too long, because of course that would have meant that he would drop back further and further away. But as fortune would have it, he is now getting closer and closer to the back of Noiguera. Tom on the move as well, as he now moves up to 10th, dispatching in Fratic, who now moves down to 11th. GB68 and Jorge Alberola, incidentally, also swapping places. Now, I do wonder whether that's a team decision, because, of course, GB68 is on the fast soft tyres, whereas Jorge Alberola, should I say, or Jorge himself, is on the medium compound. GB again ascending as he now brushes past in Fratic up to 11th spot. Now, obviously, understanding that GB is on the softs, nonetheless, Fratic is on the mediums, it still takes conviction to make these moves, Dan, and he's doing it in great style.
He certainly is, although he is benefiting somewhat from the fact that Tom is ahead of him, because Tom is also on that soft tyre. He's also making the moves on the drivers in front, as they've just done to Benjamin Daly, and so that then tends to mean that when you're overtaken by a driver, you're then even more exposed, even more likely to be overtaken if there's another driver immediately behind. Remember, in Formula One, if you have seen the sprint race earlier on, then minor spoilers if you've not. I'm not going to name any names, but of course there was a DRS train for a few laps, and then when one driver makes a mistake, when one driver gets close enough to then actually have a go, suddenly the entire train has the possibility to get every single car past the one that was formerly at the head of that train. So it's a very, very difficult and very dangerous position to be in, to start being harassed and attacked by those cars behind, when you'd rather have a bit of an easier time of it. But I tell you, one driver who's having an easy time right now is Noiguera, but they may be forced into a move by Alex Gillen here, because if Alex is not able to push on, then he's going to be at risk of M-Sky-Z, which is exactly what's happened there. He's gone for the move. M-Sky-Z would have gone for it otherwise, and so that then means that Noiguera retakes the lead here on lap 4, the conclusion of lap 4 of the Chinese Grand Prix.
Yeah, and also with El Rey now being right up close and personal to M-Sky-Z here, as they now go 2 by 2 pretty much, heading through the final corners. Noiguera still leads the way. Alex Gillen, though, with a chance to take it back. Tom now coming straight into the pits. I can only imagine this is a damage issue as he now heads through this pit lane. Noiguera now coming under scrutiny here from M-Sky-Z as well. El Rey Giri also coming into the fight. Now, as I alluded to, El Rey being on those hard tyres, negating what Jake is doing down in P5 as well, because Meraki is also on those hard tyres, as now around the outside comes M-Sky-Z on the attack of Noiguera for that P2 place. Noiguera defending to the inside very well in the escape out of turn 6 through towards turn 7. They will go, and then through towards turn 8. They're still now getting closer and closer to each other. The gap's minute between them as Sky-Z tries to force a gap as they go wheel to wheel. Coming out of turn 9 now this time, but that's opened the door to El Rey. M-Sky-Z might have left himself in a little bit of trouble here. Can't afford to make these mistakes too early on, and Noiguera, as a result, may lose out on DRS if he's not careful.
Yeah, you may well do. I mean, this is one of these things where this, that sort of a move there from M-Sky-Z, it's flashy, it's interesting, it's a part of the circuit we don't see very much overtaking happen, but it's not particularly high race IQ, if we're being completely honest. If you're going to want to overtake somebody, you're going to want to do so in a way
DRS.
that is going to be, there you go, exactly, yeah. So the driver's lost DRS. Now, that just means there's a potential likelihood that you could lose DRS on the car in front as well, if they're able to power on up the road and get away from the pair of you. But as you can see there, then, that's an example of that, where the move is done in a proper place, and El Rey, that was not particularly sportsmanlike. That was not a good move there to force another driver off the circuit, all 4 wheels. That's not very good at all there from them. Tom now complaining that the Alpine team did not replace their front wing. Well, it's Alpine. Can we really be expecting anything more from them?
God, you're ruthless, Stan. God.
I am. I don't know, man. I felt a bit unwell the last couple of weeks. Maybe it's just a bit of angst has just built up in that time. Who knows?
Incredible. Yeah, major moment coming out of turn 16. El Rey Giri coming into contact. I think it was between he and Noiguera coming through those final corners. Big moments as we now watch them come through on lap 6 of 56. Still 50 laps to go. Plenty of time for major moments to be had. Not to say that we haven't had many of them already. I'm going to throw it across to Gareth Allen. Gareth, you got an update?
Yeah, Tom, obviously apoplectic about not having his front wing changed as well. He's gone to the medium, so it's kind of really ruined his strategy. He's just going to have to hope for a safety car. But I have a feeling here Alex Gillen will be disappointed he didn't break that DRS choke, because he already has M-Sky-Z right on the back of him. And I think M-Sky-Z will get punchy.
He did have the chance to break it earlier on, but M-Sky-Z having that DRS that he had has obviously allowed him to not only break past Noiguera as he did, also protecting from El Rey Giri, but now he's going to have a punch here at Alex Gillen for a chance at taking the lead here at Shanghai, and MSkyZ will ascend upwards and onwards here at the lead of the race, at the forefront of everything here in this 20 string of drivers that we have here racing around this circuit here at China. But Alex Gillen now immediately with DRS open himself is now going to look to try and plunge in on the attack round the outside through turn 1, with the grip on the soft prevailing for him here, as now the former Creator Series champion now looks to reign out in front. But back comes Skyzy, who takes the outside line through turn 3. The Alfa Romeo and the Haas dueling it out here in the initial sector here at China. They remain side by side. Skyzy defiant, maintains the lead of the race. Gillen threatening again, heading through the next right at turn 6. Can't quite tag him back, but a fantastic battle between two classy drivers.
Absolutely, yes. Some good, clean racing from the pair of them there. Absolutely brilliant. A little bit of pushing this way and that, you could say, in terms of the width left between them on circuit, but it was all clean, all good fun. That's what we like to see in terms of these drivers here. I think that Alex Gillen was so desperate to try and defend that position there, because now, by lap 7, those soft tyres will be starting to get a little bit worse for wear. They're not going to be bad by any stretch of the imagination. They'll still be able to compete with the mediums, but the mediums will now have a much greater peak of performance compared to the mediums. So it's going to be on them to try and just stay with MSkyZ now. I think that the likelihood of an overtake is pretty low. If they do get an overtake done down the back straight here, it's probably not going to be one that sticks, because it will then just be undone by MSkyZ down the start-finish straight with DRS themselves here. So into the hairpin they go then. Alex Gillen's got the move done. We've got all those wonderful particle effects flying up into the air as the drivers lock up ever so slightly into that hairpin. As they come through the final turn then, it is going to be MSkyZ in the attacking phase, Alex Gillen in the defensive one, and this time then DRS for the Alfa Romeo down towards turn number 1, and Alex is defending clean air. That's he's clearly got a bit of worry there that he's going to be attacked again. And certainly I thought that was what was going to happen, but it seems as though MSkyZ just taking a much more conservative approach here. Radio from Alex saying, I want to be charging battery, not burning here. And that's the key thing. He's a good long-term racer, is Alex Gillen. He's able to very much think about what happens later on and what the consequences of his actions now result in later on. And by getting stuck in behind for the majority of last lap until we got to that big long back straight, he will have had to burn a lot of that ERS because of the fact he's on those much more aged, degrading soft tyres.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Alex Gillen here in this, I mean, your strategy essentially is to ensure that if you are on the softs and you are leading the race, you need to try and break DRS as soon as possible in order to make your strategy work. You need to allow yourself that little bit of clean air because you are on the faster compound. You need to try and build that gap. Unfortunately, he's not being allowed to do that. So with everything that Skyzy's doing right now, it's negating all the work that Alex has put in place, moving up from P6 to the lead of the race. But obviously anything can happen here in this early stage. We've got a long way to go as we just caught a glimpse of Meraki heading down this long straight again. Here comes Skyzy, who's now going to look to try and take that lead advantage away from Gillen once again, heading through turn 14. The Alfa Romeo hits the front, with in third place El Reguiri getting closer. Might also fancy an opportunity in his own right to move up to P2. Is a little mistake. Starts creeping into Jorge Alberola, just running a little bit wide, catching that rear tyre spin, and as a consequence has actually lost DRS on Tiamat Marduk because he's 1.3 seconds has a 1.3 second gap behind the Aussie for that 9th place. But I just want to point out as well, GB68 also forfeiting DRS as we now see a fight for the lead brewing here through the first sector between Gillen and MSkyZ, Dan.
Yep, very, very close scrapping here between the pair of them. We've got Skyzy now back up in the lead, and this is going to be another lap then for Alex Gillen, where he's going to have to burn rather than conserve as far as the ERS battery is concerned. And so when we take a look at that, of course, that's going to hurt his long-term aspirations and long-term plans in this race. It's also going to hurt his tyres because he's going to be carrying even more speed, of course, than they otherwise would be putting up with at this stage, so that's going to degrade them even more. And then, of course, it limits his defensive options as well, because he's then going to have to, of course, maybe burn a little bit to stay ahead of El Reguiri too. So all these things factor in, and he's gonna have a very difficult time now the longer he stays in behind. Remember the last time that these positions were the case, where he was coming through these next couple of corners here onto the back straights, chasing after MSkyZ. The gap back then was 0.4 of a second. It's now double that to 8.5 of a second.
Certainly is. Alex Gillen now under a little bit of pressure. This is not ideal, especially being on that soft tyre. Skyzy on the mediums, and we're only on lap 9 of 56. We've got a long way to go. Gillen under pressure here from El Rey Guri. I'm actually surprised that the Spaniard didn't go for the move there, heading through the heavy braking zone out of turn 14. That was a huge opportunity. Gone a miss there for El Rey, but I'm sure he'll get another chance should this continue. I get the sense that maybe Alex Gillen is saving somewhat in terms of his ERS, in terms of his battery here, Dan.
I would say that's a likelihood, a possibility at this stage, because as he said on the radio earlier on, burning at this stage of the race is not going to be doing him any massive favours. Also, we can see here GB wanting to work together with Ben Daly at this stage to close the gap. But of course, Ben may be a little bit less inclined to do that, because of course, if he does that, he's helping along someone on the soft tyre and just putting them into a better position to potentially fight back later on in this race. But when it comes to Ben themselves, they're 1.6 seconds off the back of a DRS train on hard tyres. They're actually in a great place as they are right now. They're going to get a little bit less in the way of hot air coming off the cars in front. That's going to keep their engine in a nicer place. That's going to be better for fuel consumption, better for power delivery, and then, of course, less hot air travelling over those tyres as well, and less dirty air too, meaning less sliding. So all in all, this actually might be a better position for Ben to stay in.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously, he's not on necessarily the strategy where he needs to be at the front necessarily right away. Alex Gillen has just launched himself out of DRS. He's 1.3 seconds now out the way and continuing to drop. So he's now going to be a sitting duck with El Rey Guri in behind. We saw the straight line speed on this Red Bull earlier on. He'll have a great chance here this time around, and it's in El Rey's interest here at this point to try and dispatch Alex ASAP, but opting to remain in behind. Someone who is not opted to remain in behind, though, is Tom97, who is very keen to make the moves and has in fact managed to displace Meraki for that 5th spot. So a great move from Tom97, who is now going to push onwards and try and hunt down Noiguera. Remember, Tom97 also on hard tyres, so this is working out brilliantly for him. And he now launches ahead after Noiguera this time, outside line through turn 1. Can't quite find it, but a beautiful switch back there from Tom97. Martinez now opting to launch it through turn 3, through turn 4. Can he get the traction on the exit of the corner to try and tackle this time the Mercedes and Noiguera? He has got the power, he has got the energy, he's got it all. The hard tyres working for him in towards turn 6. Noiguera late on the brakes, runs out wide, and very nearly caught napping was Martinez on the back of El Rey Guri.
Yeah, absolutely. That was so close between that trio there. El Rey, I think, is counting their lucky stars if they even know what's just happened behind them, because that could very well have been a Mercedes-shaped hole in the back of his Red Bull, really. It could have been a right proper Tom and Jerry moment between the pair of them. But as it is then, Tom97 moves up. I now would have to revise my prediction. I would say now, with Noiguera getting displaced as easily as that by a hard tyre runner, I think Tom97 is now pole position to win this race.
Yeah, I would say so. He's got a great opportunity here. Obviously, the initial stints on these hard tyres are crucial. I mean, this will very much be the kryptonite to Alex Gillen's tactic of going early on the softs instead, as we now see Gillen dropping back time after time, already suggested that his tyres have gone off, and this is an illustration as to how badly they are performing right now. He's just lost 2 places, with El Rey moving up to 2nd, Tom97 up to 3rd. It is truly a horror story right now for Alex Gillen, who here on lap 12 now sits in P4, losing time after time. Noiguera is chasing him down as they now hurtle through towards turn 1. Alex Gillen deciding, no, judging from the team radio, I'm going to stay out and wait for a safety car. That's a bold ask, as now we see a Tom97 immediately down the inside of El Rey Guri, who misses the apex coming through turn 2 out of turn 3.
Yeah, the wider line can sometimes be of benefit to you, but not when you go that far wide. And El Rey has learned the folly of such a manoeuvre. So there we are then, Tom97 up into 2nd place. And what I think effectively is essentially the lead of this race at this point here, because he's going to be able to go so much longer than everybody else around him, with the exception of Meraki and Ben Daly, but they're of course that bit further back in the queue. And of course now, they're also starting to close in on Skyzy in front as well. When the move was first made, it was 2.4 seconds, now down to 2.1, and it is slowly trending in that direction. It's fluctuating here, there, and with a little bit of a slide like that out of the left-hander, that's not going to do Tom any favours at all. But yeah, Skyzy, they can't just sit on their laurels now and just think themselves, well, I've got a 2.5 second gap, I can just control the pace. No, I think that they need to be very wary of Tom 97. They also need to be wary of Tom 97 bringing the pack back towards not towards El Rey, but towards Sky Z, I should say, because El Rey, of course, is still within DRS of Tom 97, and there's not much real estate between Tom 97 getting into DRS range of M Sky Z and then him also being out of DRS range of El Rey Gurix. There's a very, very fine line there, and if El Rey is able to hold on and just keep on going with him up towards the back of the Alfa Romeo, then that could spell more trouble for M Sky Z, as into the pits goes Alex Gillen.
I'm not surprised. One iota, obviously the tyres just are falling apart for him right now. Into the pits comes our former Creator Series champion, and he'll now venture onto a fresh set of tyres. The big question is, what will he plumb for? Will he go for a long run? No, he won't. He'll go for a steady medium stint here at this point. Not yet going onto the hards just yet, but certainly a run on mediums. I'd imagine double medium strategy, Dan?
I would imagine so. Yep, it's a circuit where, of course, it's pretty high tyre deck, as we've seen there, with them having to come in at the end of lap 12. I would argue probably should have come in even earlier than that, really. Maybe the end of lap 10 as well. So, given the step change between the tyres, medium is possible. Whether it's necessarily a probable strategy or not, we'll have to wait and see. The real barometer of that will be to see when the drivers who started on mediums come in, because of course they're going to have a shorter lifespan than mediums that Alex has just put on, by virtue of the fact they're going to be carrying far more fuel at the beginning of their medium stint versus him at the beginning of his medium stint. So if they're able to go to about sort of lap 20, lap 25, then I would say that yes, medium from here for Alex is the safe bet to go for.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see it at all. That guy Vince, who fresh off the back of his sprint race troubles, now hunting down after Infratic for that P10 place. So it's a battle between the two Italian constructors. Maranello versus Faenza as they now burst down this long straight. And it's that guy Vince who will move up into the top 10 as we now catch up with him. You can see him in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, heading through turn 14. An iron gaze stretched upon as he now makes his way through turn 15 and 16. He'll then venture through across the start-finish line to begin yet another lap. Tim Emada coming into the pits as well. GB also coming in, no doubt responding to Alex Gillen's immediate pit stop.
This is an interesting thing that we're seeing here from Ben Daly. To go away from the hards this early on, that's bizarre to me.
It's a strange decision.
It is.
No doubt.
I mean, if you go for hards at the beginning of the race, then you're planning to either go long or take advantage of an early safety car. And in that sense, you've been able to get rid of a tyre that can be, very durable, can last later on if you need to go back to it, and then it allows you to get that free pit stop in. But yeah, to come off them now in normal race conditions, that's a bizarre thing. That being said, though, and get ready, everybody, I'm about to do it again. It is Ben Daly, and he is known for the occasional bum strategy in the past, so we'll have to wait and see whether this is another one of them, or whether this is inspired.
Well, you never know. I mean, this is the type of thing we've seen from the Aussie sensation before, time and time again, where he's decided to opt for something a little different. Obviously, judging from that very early pit stop on that compounded tyre, which should have sent him, at least you'd imagine, another 10 or so, maybe 15 to 20 laps. I mean, it's quite bizarre, but obviously has something up his sleeve in order to perhaps confuse and bemuse the rest of the grid. But currently sat P13 and trying to hunt down after Alex Gillen, who now currently sits 3 seconds away from him here. So whether that was an instant response to Alex Gillen's stop, I'm not quite sure, as we're now seeing the two Haas come together this time around. We've got a team radio here from Ben Daly, aiming for that undercut to close the gap. So obviously just trying to just change the picture, change the perspective here, as now we see Alex Gillen coming out of turn 14. Here comes that guy Vince into the pit stand.
Yeah, I mean, it's this idea of, I'm going to go for an undercut and close the gap. They must be referring to, of course, Tom 97 and Meraki, because they're the others who started on hards. But the problem for me with that idea, with that strategy, is that all they've done there is they've just gone for essentially the soft starting strategy without getting any of the benefit of starting on softs. If he'd started on softs, pitted around the same time, he would have gained more positions in all the fighting, because he would have had more grip and more purchase underneath him, and therefore he wouldn't have lost as much time in pitting. So it's just, that's a weird one for me. I'm not sure what he's up to there.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. He's very close to getting DRS off Chesnoid Gaming at this stage, but Alex Gillen already managing to get himself ahead of Chesnoid at this stage, and still in the top 10 and persevering on his medium tyres at this point. And looking at it, holds on to the fastest lap of the race still. as he did when he crossed the line to begin lap 3 earlier on the soft tyres, where DRS became active for the first time in this race. Skyzy still out in front, has put together a very healthy gap between he and El Rey Guri of 2.3 seconds. In fact, Tom 97 ascending past El Rey, to the Spaniard losing out on second place, and Tom 97 on the hards seems to be in a very right vein of form right now as Timoet Marduk makes his way down through towards turn 14. Matty D13 now jumping ahead of Fabio for that 8th spot as well. The movement's being made across the grid as we now see El Rey getting closer and closer to the back of Tom 97 this time. Martinez flashing, suggesting that the energy has come to a bitter end there in the McLaren. So I was obviously spent quite a great deal trying to close the gap to Skyzy in the lead.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe a little bit poor energy management in terms of what they've done there to be flashing at this stage of the race. That doesn't really give you much in the way of wiggle room when it comes to fighting with other cars. Yes, they're going to have tyres that are in better condition at this stage than El Rey behind because they're on hards as opposed to their mediums, but again, there's a little bit of weird strategy going on between the drivers here today, with Alex staying out potentially longer than they should have done, Ben pitting earlier than they should have done, a fairly liberal use of the ERS with Tom 97. Right now, I would say that really the drivers who are impressing me the most in terms of what they've done versus where they started and the strategies that they're trying to execute are Meraki, Skyzy, and Noigueira.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Meraki obviously has been sort of progressively working through the grid silently as well. Started where he did, obviously further down actually remained the same, in fact, on his hard tyres, but has done brilliantly to maintain that place, because obviously many of the drivers would have started on the medium tyre, which would have put him at risk. El Rey Guri has now managed to move back to second, moving back past Tom 97. Meraki dropping down, with Noigueira now moving up to 4th. So there is still a lot of movement happening within the top 6 pair. Now watching the battle unfold right in front of him here as they now burst through the final corners and head out on another lap here as they look to begin once again, this time on lap 17 of 56. Back comes Meraki on the hard tyres, DRS working for him in his favour, and we'll look to try and hold the inside, but back comes Noigueira as they make contact, just drifting out wide, a little bit of understeer coming into play there as Noigueira came in perhaps a little too hot, trying to pull off the undercut against Meraki. Very nearly worked against the pair of them there, no doubt, given the fact that there is obviously a greater risk here in the create a series of damage, especially around China. Here, Noigueira still retains the place, remains in 4th. Meraki probably quite fortunate not to come under any, should we say, damage reflection. It got very close heading through turns 1 and turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these things where again, it's maybe not the most intelligent of plays from Noigueira. I mean, obviously, you want to fight, that's absolutely fine. You keep on fighting with the car there. You're maintaining track position, but track position isn't going to matter when you pit several laps before them because they're on the hard tyre. If anything, you should let them go and then try and stay with them, use their fresher tyres, though, albeit at this stage of the race, probably not massively fresher than the mediums, to then use them to essentially DRS train you up towards the back of the likes of Tom 97, El Rey Guri, and so on and so forth. We've got Meraki's radio there saying, what are you doing, Noigueira? Lost us half a second. And this is the thing. Meraki wants to work together with Noigueira here. One of them DRS passes the other, and then back, and so on and so forth. And they both move up with that extra straight line speed, worth a few tenths a lap around here, nearly a whole second a lap around here, in fact. But when you see them going along like that and they fight hard, then you lose so much more time than you gain with that strategy. So again, Jake wants to move forwards, Noigueira wants to keep his position, and that is then a bit of a meeting of an immovable object and an unstoppable force, really.
Yeah, I mean that's the difference maker, isn't it? Whilst of course you can have all the pace in the world, if you don't have the race management to a T, that can cost you victories, and that is probably the one thing that has gone against Noigueira in many ways where it comes to getting wins, or should we say brilliant results in the Creator Series. So yeah, major moment. Obviously Meraki keen to work together, hasn't quite panned out the way that he has hoped. This is the replay of the moment. Noigueira just a little nod of the head here as they went wheel to wheel. Now this is the point when Noigueira pulled off the switchback. They made contact. It was front left to the side pod of the Williams as they headed then through the left-hander coming out of the first sector, of course through towards turn 5 out of turns 4, but a major moment between the pair, and obviously Jake trying to hang on around the outside, but Noigueira making very quick work of getting past him and retaining that 4th place. Meraki, I'm sure, there will come back up against him. There you can see the tyre performance graphic on the right-hand side. Meraki and Peya nigh on matched in terms of where they sit tyre-wise right now, which suggests to me, which is quite baffling actually, because Pei is on medium tyres and Jake is on hard, so they've both performed fairly similarly at this point.
Yeah, they have. It's a very interesting thing. Usually around China, you see a reasonable step change between each tyre, and with them being so similar there, that's quite impressive. Either impressive from the car on the mediums to be able to make them last as well as they have, or not so impressive from the driver on the hards, where they've clearly burned through them an awful lot more. So it's one of the two. Or maybe it's maybe like most
maybe
things,
it's both.
lies somewhere in the middle. Exactly, yeah. But here we can see then move up the inside there for Hayden Gullis. We're looking down towards the back end of the field. It's a place where we often see there's an awful lot of good racing going on, but the nature of Creator Series is such good racing going on at the front so much of the time that we don't tend to see what's going on at the back. But it's nice to see that we've drawn some attention to it here. Just behind, you can see there Matty D getting the move done on Dave Gaming as they go into the first corner there. But Dave Gaming's got that high line. He might be able to draw it back to the inside. There was certainly a door open there they could have gone for, but that was very much not opted for and then eventually shut by the McLaren driver. So that's that there. Again, though, just to go back to Ben's strategy, there was a comment earlier on from Brandon saying he's clearly saving softs in case of a late safety car. You could still stay out longer on the hards and save softs. There's nothing stopping you from staying out on the hards longer and going on to mediums later on, and therefore having softs left. There's also, of course, the possibility there is no safety car. You can't do strategy for if a safety car happens. You have to do strategy for what is the most optimum thing for my race right now, with the facts that are in front of me. And that's what has to determine your strategy. Now again, if Ben manages to get a great result at the end of this, then I'm going to end up walking back on all of this because it will turn out, hindsight being 2020, a good strategy. But right now, for the time, it doesn't strike me as the best strategy call for where they started this race and for where they were at the point they pitted.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly one of those baffling moments. Nogueira just running wide at the apex, heading out of turn 16, just hurtling over those curves slightly. There's Impratic, who's got Tim Mardik in front of him. And GB launches up the inside, coming out of the final corners as we rode off board there briefly with the Aston Martin. Fabio coming unstuck, heading through the final portions of that lap 19, or their lap 19, soon to become lap 20 as it is now, as they come through the first two corners on this Shanghai circuit. And we have got an update to suggest that there was indeed damage to Tiamat Marduk's car, so that would have inflicted the pit stop, or certainly the pit stop that we expected. Apparently there being wing damage to Ben Daly's car that instigated that decision to pit. So there we have it. That is why Tiamat Marduk might have opted for a difference in strategy, obviously losing too much delta, I think, in that case, Dan, if he did have that wing damage, costing him that vital downforce, which I would say is imperative in this middle sector, because of course you've got all those different kinds of slalom sections. It goes very quickly from fast-paced corners into, should we say fast-paced sections, not necessarily corners, into mid-speed corners where you do need that little bit of downforce.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I don't remember if we were on board for Ben's pit stop, but if we were, I don't remember there being any wing change happening.
No, I couldn't remember that either.
So, no, exactly. It's, yeah, very interesting.
Strange.
But, yeah, as it is then, if there is damage, then maybe you had it, there we go. It's Wireman now saying, Ben did not have damage. Brandon saying, did he? I thought that was the sprint. So, yeah, it's all a bit of a mystery right now, and we're talking about a driver down in 9th place, whilst we've got drivers towards the front of the field that are having great battles here. We can see, of course, there is the battle on screen there with GB and Ben Daly at this point in time, but then we can see here Meraki getting very close once again to the back of Nogueira. To Nogueira's credit, actually, they defended that bit of road earlier on, and we said, and Jake said, that lost the pair of them an awful lot of time as a result, but it's, you know, one of these things where, actually, to be fair to them, they are actually catching the back of Tom 97. That gap had been over about 2.5 seconds earlier on. It's now down to 1.8. So Nogueira's putting in the hard yards here to get themselves onto the back. But again, it's going to be a question of how long these mediums last for, and therefore how much they can keep pushing up towards the back of Tom 97, who is on the hards. But again, if the spread of the field's tyre wear is similar to what we saw in that graphic earlier on, then it may well actually be that those on the mediums and those on the hards are actually at pretty similar levels of wear at this point, and therefore performance. So, yeah, interesting things all round right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom 97 still in a very good place in terms of how his strategy is unfolding. Hard tyres still on the car, though. 2.4 seconds now away from El Rey Guri. So El Rey has managed to persevere onwards. Skyzy, though, unafflicted up at the top. 5 seconds now between he and P2 right now. So Skyzy having a very Skyzy race, I suppose. This is the type of thing he likes to do. Break away as soon as possible, breach the DRS. I mean, that's what every driver who leads the race is thinking of doing. Obviously, it does help, certainly when the pit stops unfold. And with 21 laps accrued on medium tyres, there's got to come a point in the next few laps where Skyzy starts to think about his strategic master plan. As we now see Jorge Alberola, he's got 21 laps accrued on his tyres, now 3/10 off the back of Peya in their battle for P6 and P5, because Meraki just ahead of Peya, and also Nogueira still ahead of them too, with Tom 97 still ahead of those. So quite an extensive train of cars fighting over these podium places, as well as some high points paying positions as well alike. Rob has just managed to overtake his teammate, that guy Vince, who now drops down to 13th, getting in very tight is Rob there, as they head through this middle, head through the initial sector, head through towards the middle sector very shortly. Vince in behind Safso, of course, Creator Series Season 1 champion, with Matty D13 in behind those two, with Hayden Gullis also not too far away. They come through towards turn 6 this time. Rob still holding on to that advantage, but he's 7.9 away right now from Infratic in that 11th spot, so will not have DRS and will be a sitting duck to that guy Vince in behind, as well as Zafso, as they make their way down the through the middle sector. Very soon, though, down that long straight, he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny and under a lot of trouble, you'd fathom.
You would indeed. Other naval measurements are available, and Tom 97 then being told by his engineer or by himself to box. So again, interesting that we're seeing that. If that does transpire to be true, and we see the McLaren just up in front of the car we're watching right now go into the pits, which again, Nogueira's closed down massively on Tom 97 this lap, and Tom 97 does pit. He almost does a Lewis Hamilton as he does so, but he manages to get it into the pit lane anyway. And yeah, interesting that the hards are coming off before the mediums. And so I think the question will now be, now there's a 3.6 second gap between Nogueira and the next car up the road, does Meraki now make a bit more of a concerted effort to get by them and get away from them? And that then, of course, elevates the likes of Ben Daly and GB and Alex Gillen further up the order as those cars go into the pits. We'll likely see the same thing later on. But again, those drivers are going to have to pit again, as most of the drivers in the field will, of course, in order to get themselves to the end of this race, but they're going to have to do so much earlier than those who've just pit now. Tom 97 just saying that they got 2 track cutting warnings going into the pit. Well, I mean, I'm not being funny, but we all saw that you went outside the track limits there, Tom, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so only 2, actually. Only 2 warnings enlisted against him, so those must be the 2, as now Tom 97 goes on the attack of Zaf, so they ran wheel to wheel briefly, but Tom 97 managed to certainly run away with it there. P11, and now looking at Rob, eyeing up Rob, in fact, for that top 10 place, and will get it, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. Alex Gillen also on the move, has already pitted, managed to jump ahead of Meraki. He's now looking to try and take down Nogueira this time around as well. Obviously, those in the top 4 who were in the top 4, I should say, must be looking to pit now, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. Alex Gillen now up into 3rd place. Nogueira with still Meraki in behind there. Skyzy, he's remaining out on track. In comes El Rey Geary. So obviously now spying this as an opportunity to come in and relinquish those medium tyres and move on to a fresher set of tyres. And I don't think he'll be alone, because in comes Meraki with him as well, who will now look to bail off those hards.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on go a new set of mediums for El Rey Geary. So definitely locking themselves into a 2-stopper. There's no chance whatsoever of them doing a 1-stop here today based off of that, because they started on mediums, they've gone to mediums, and so they've got to stop again. So they may well be banking for a safety car and hoping that a good set of medium tyres underneath them will give them the pace and performance to be able to be in the best position for if/when that safety car is called. But again, as I said earlier on in response to the message where people were saying, well, of course Ben's done this because he's banking on a safety car later, you can't bank on a safety car because it may not come.
No, it might not. I mean, we haven't had one up to now, to be honest with you. We're on lap 24 of 56 and getting closer and closer to the halfway point in this race as well. There's Tiamat Marduk. He's had 10 laps accrued on his medium tyres. So, I mean, his strategy has left him currently, now he's, well, 5/10, just over the realm of 5/10 away from GB68. So the strategy is somewhat paled. Certainly worked for Tiamat Marduk to a certain degree. Remember, he started P7. He's now up to 5th. We'll obviously have to put these mediums to work a little bit more than, should we say, some of the cars behind him here. But we'll need to try and pull off somewhat of a I would say, a fairly chunky stint here in order to make this work, but making his way down through towards turn 14, chasing after GB68 for P4 in this race. Noiguera then further up, 3.5 seconds ahead of the Aston Martin. Into the pits comes Noiguera now, so no doubt Tim Marduk will jump those ahead of him again this time. I tell you what, in terms of track position, this might help Ben out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of these things where we see Noiguera coming into the pits there, and again, I'm fairly certain that based on the line they took, they're going to have a couple of warnings next to their name as well. Let's just, I'll just take a little look at that. They've got one at least, so yep, they've gotten a warning there for going all four wheels off of the track as they went into the pit lane entry, or that's my assumption anyway. But yeah, it's, I mean, yes, it might gain you a little bit of extra time, but if you're going to end up potentially getting yourself a penalty later on in the race by way of doing it, then yeah, just silly. Stop being silly, everybody. Do it properly.
Yeah, I tell you what, they are working outside the scope, outside the line, shall we say, as now Peya comes under a little bit of scrutiny himself as Rob looks to go up the inside in the AlphaTauri. Could not quite pull it off. Enter as well Meraki, who also spies an opportunity in his own right as well, as the Williams now lurches forward ahead now of Rob now and moves into that top 10 place. As now Peya also looking all over the back of the Alpine of Zafso. Meraki though might be the better here in this battle, shall we say, for this battle for P8. You could obviously witness here now heading through this next left-hander now to turn 11 through towards turn 12 and 13. Quite the kerfuffle happening here now as we see Peya in P9. Zafso still leading this train through. Meraki with a chance as he gets to within the aero of Peya, heading down this long straight. A very long straight indeed, and there could be a double overtake in the offing here. Meraki's got the run, heading down here on medium tyres. Soft tyres for Peya. Can they help him out? Heading through turn 14. Meraki choosing to remain late on the brakes. Hangs the car into the inside. The Williams can't quite get the spin. Coming out to those final corners, and Peya will hold on to P8, with now Meraki holding on to P9.
Yeah, Meraki holding on to P9, but with a flashing red light at the rear of that Williams, and so therefore they are not necessarily best placed to be getting a move done and then disappearing up the road, really. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them, I think. I mean, we saw them all the last stint being stuck behind Noiguera for a long, long time. Noiguera is now, of course, a few positions back, but you can see there in terms of the tyres that they are fresh. Peya also on fresh softs too, so that's going to really count in their favour. Jake having a look up the inside, but it doesn't phase Peya in any way, shape or form. We know Peya's quick, we know that they are, and so therefore with a set of soft tyres on, that's going to keep them ahead for the next several laps at least. I mean, I'd not be surprised if they're going to be able to provide something of a blocker in front of Jake at this stage for the next 10 laps or so. Because of all that we see here. It's been noted in the chat, and I agree with them, to be honest with you. If MSkyZ can take these tyres 25 and now 26 laps, of course, then they can very much do the one-stop. And the one-stop, of course, you are able to gain an enormous amount of time on everyone else, because they've got to go through the pit lane for an additional stop. And oh dear, Rob! Well, they say unstop Rob. Oh. Apparently the way to stop him is to get him to spin just before you get onto the back straight.
Yeah, MSkyZ coming into the pits as well. So here we have it. Our leader comes in. Alex Gillen will now take the lead of the race.
Hard tyres.
And hard tyres applied. SkyZ going for the one-stop. Dan, you are the prophet, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I will take any and all worship now in the chat. Let's have some W's in chat for our shared prediction. That would be what would happen, but also some W's for just my great glorious prophetness.
Brilliant. Out to the pits comes MSkyZ, 6th place in this classification, and he'll now look to hunt after El Reguri once again. 1.7 to find in this instance, but still P6 and on track and looking in good, well, a very rich vein of form, and could be yet on the precipice of achieving yet another race win this season. Has been on the podium twice already, back at Japan, where of course he did manage to lay claim to his first victory this campaign, but even prior to that, 3rd place back at Brazil, and arguably should have probably won the championship last season. We did see, of course, the ending of the season not necessarily going in SkyZ's favour, especially at Austria, where it all seemed to come undone after a little issue in terms of a technical failure going up through towards Rima's corner at turn 3, which certainly changed everything, as we're now seeing GB68 move up into 2nd place now ahead of Tim Marduk, who now drops down to 3rd. Tom 97 7 seconds away from those up in the top 3. Now remember, Tim Armada going long on his medium tyres to a certain extent. Of course, when we last checked, they were 10 laps old as we now start their lap 28 of 56. GB68 holding on to P2 right now. Tim Armada not coming back at him just yet, but taking a wider line heading through turn 2. As they now head through turn 3 this time around, the Aston Martin, meaning green in second place. Alex Gillen 4.3 to the good ahead of him right now. With Tim Armada just resting 4/10 in behind GB on his same-aged medium tyres as well. 14 laps accrued on their compounds as they now look to stretch away. Tom 97, who's just recently boxed, only approximately 5 laps accrued on his tyre set, and still remains in 4th with El Reguri in 5th. Radio here from GB. I don't think Sky Z will like those hards. So an interesting concept there. GB68 in defiance of the one-stop strategy, suggesting that it's not going to be a comfortable ride for M Sky Z towards the end of the race. And it does seem that they degrade just as much as the mediums do.
They do, which I think actually is something that counts in the favour of M Sky Z more than anything else. I mean, they were able to take those previous set of mediums, 26 laps. That was on much higher fuel as well and everything else. And they've secured their route to the finish now. They do not have to stop again. Whereas you look at the likes of, you know, Ben Daly, GB68, Alex Gillen, they all pitted so early onto their mediums, they will not get those to the end of the race. They will need to stop against. They'll incur all of the extra time that comes with stopping. In addition to that, you've then got the likes of El Reguri. They've gone medium, so they will have to stop again. And here we can see then, keeping it in the lines just as GB into the pits then. And as to get it all slowed down, what set of tyres is going to be this time? My suspicion is it's going to be another set of mediums, so it could be a set of softs potentially. That being said, if it's soft, they'll need to go again.
Yeah, I mean, looks like the red banded tyres are going onto the car, so that's interesting. He's gone onto the soft compound of tyres. Only did 15 laps on the mediums, so that's very interesting. And he's not the only one either, because TM Marduk's doing exactly the same. So, yeah, working together, obviously, with the same strategy. Soft tyres applied to both cars. And let's see how this works out towards the end of the race. Lap 29 of 56 here at this point. Gillen out in front. Tom 97 in second now. El Rey promoted to third, with Sky Z now in fourth. Team radio from Alex Gillen. We're going to need to conserve fuel. So fuel's going to be an issue for Alex Gillen. On top of that, he's wrestling with 16-lap-old medium tyres. I'd be interested to see how Alex Gillen responds to knowing that there are some other drivers manoeuvring their way around the strategy somewhat further down the order. Truly is a compelling race. I'm not sure quite how it's going to end.
I can throw a prediction out there for you if you like.
Go for it.
I think that we're going to see M Sky Z win by a country mile because, yes, the other drivers around him are going on to very quick tyres, but those tyres will degrade, they'll have to stop again, and that then means that when you take into account that the time that you spend in the pit lane at most Formula 1 circuits is somewhere between 20 and 25 seconds. If we assume even the most generous end of 20 seconds around here in Shanghai, then that's an additional 40 seconds on their race time. And I don't think that the extra grip of their soft tyres over 2 extra stints is going to give them 40 seconds.
No, not at all. Just a major moment happening at turn 14. GB68 now up into 10th place. Tiamat Marduk in 11th. That guy Vince getting swallowed up, as is Hayden Gullis as well, as these two start to really send it, heading through the final 2 corners now. And they're going to need to make this work. Obviously, this is a bizarre plan put out by GB68 and Tiamat Marduk as they look to head around turn 3. They've already gone to the tail of Zafso now this time around, who is 2 seconds off Jorge Alberola for that 8th place. Didn't take very long for GB to catch up and has indeed swiftly dispatched Zafso, the Season 1 champion, now down to 10th, and he'll move down to 11th as well as Tiamat Marduk moves up into 10th place too. So a lot of movement. Jorge Alberola in the sister Aston Martin is just ahead of GB. Now, will he fight this? Obviously not teammates technically, as Alberola is, of course, a reserve to the Creator Series Championship as they head through the middle sector now. GB with Tiamat Marduk right at his rear. No doubt they're probably going to swap places through the course of this stint because they're going to want to catch up to the other cars ahead here, Dan, and they're going to have to put a lot out there on the track here just now just to make this strategy work for them, because I'm not sure how this is going to end at all.
Well, I mean, they're going to make up positions, they're going to make up time. As I say, they're going to have to stop again, so that's going to work away from their favour. Race Director, according to Wireman 2004, is saying the Ben and GB strat is fastest by about 5 seconds. Now, that's all very well and good, but that's assuming we just have uninterrupted runs of all of the cars on the circuit there. They've still got to make the moves, they've still got to do everything else in the time being and push themselves forward. Now, obviously, again, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but we will only find out at the end of the race. And right now, I certainly would be betting more on a one-stop strategy than a three-stop.
Well, fastest lap for Tim at Mardic, a 1:33.494. That takes it away from Alex Gillen, who leads the race right now. 5 seconds between Tom 97 and Gillen. There's Tim at Mardic on the tail of Jorge Alberola. It didn't take too long for them to catch up with the Aston Martin ahead. They've managed to put a serious dent in the Delta. Swap positions, just as we would expect as well if they are working together, as now they'll very quickly move alongside Jorge Alberola, heading down now in towards the heavy braking zone at turn 6. And now jettisoning out in towards turn 7 very shortly. Both cars now passing Alberola's Aston Martin and through the in-swinging left-hander of turn 7 through turn 8 as well, very shortly in towards turn 9 and turns 10 before they encounter the semi-straight, which will lead them through towards the very wide in-swinger, which will take them through to the very long straight in sector 3 proper. Here on lap 31 of 56, still more to come. We have got 25 laps to go here in this instance, and still out in front it's Alex Gillen, 4.2 seconds behind Tom 97, who is still on a reasonable strategy here on those medium tyres. He might even choose to go late onto the softs as the race comes to a close.
Potentially. That being said, though, 8 laps on those mediums. That takes us all the way back to what, lap now 9 laps when they're on lap 32. Okay, so that takes us back to lap 23. And lap 23 to 56, I think he could actually do that, you know. It would be marginal at the end as far as tyre wear is concerned, but considering how much lighter the car would have been on lap 23 versus the race start, with all that fuel burning off as we go, therefore less strain, less stress going through the tyres, Tom 97 might actually be on for a bit of a blinder here, starting on the hards, going to the mediums, and then just doing a one-stop. The opposite, of course, of M-Sky-Z's one-stop. That could then result in a conflict between the pair of them later on, although M-Sky-Z does have someone between him and Tom 97. That is their good pal, El Rey Guri. And of course, you alluded to it earlier on in the broadcast there, George, and that is that when those two come together, often there are fireworks. So it could be that potentially there's a bit more of that later on. But of course, the other thing we have to consider is that El Rey does need to pit again before we get to the end of the race, because they've gone from one medium set to another medium set. So that's all to play for later on. GB and Ben, though, they're 5.2 seconds off the back of Payer at the minute, which sets them a good 10 seconds or so off the back of M-Sky-Z right now. So they need to gather up all of that 10 seconds, then get past M-Sky-Z, then they need to get on and overtake everybody else ahead of them, then they're going to lose 20 seconds going into the pits, and they've got to then recover all of that again. So that's why I'm a little bit more sceptical about this particular strategy. But again, maybe it works come the end of the race. Who knows? Also, would you like a fun fact, George?
I'll take a fun fact, Dan Gilligan.
It's GB's teammate, Jorge. They would not be allowed to run the number that they have on their car, number 5, because, of course, it's not been long enough after Sebastian Vettel retired with that number for it to become available again. Fun facts with Dan.
There we are. Thank you very much, Dan Gilligan, for that one, if you guys didn't know at home. As GB68 now makes his way through towards turn 1, just lifting off, in fact, not even deciding to get past him at Mardic. They are very clearly working together here at this point. Obviously, GB68 not feeling that he would have necessarily taken out a lot of the track space to make the overtake in a clean fashion, enough that would have gained both drivers time here at this point. So it's down to Tim at Mardic to take them through the first sector. They got Peya up in 7th place and already has found 2 tenths here as Tim at Mardic. And it's starting to get even closer between the Alfa Romeo Sauber and the Ferrari here at this point on lap 33 of 56. Gillen out in front, though. Tom 97 now is second in behind, so he is closing fervently here at this point. 10 laps accrued on Tom 97's tyres. Further back, El Rey Guri also trying to work hard to try and grind himself closer and closer as well. But M-Sky-Z will very surely be joining him, because he's only 1.2 away, and he's managed to rein in his deltas considerably as well. So there's all to play for here at this point. I can tell you in the last lap that M-Sky-Z was indeed 5 tenths quicker than El Rey over that last lap. So in the next lap or so, we could yet see Sky-Z getting to within the DRS of El Rey Guri. But immediately now, we're seeing Alex Gillen come into the pits this time. So Tom 97 will take the race lead. Alex Gillen, no doubt here. He's got to go for the soft tyres, right, Dan? Will it be mediums, I suppose?
I mean, it could be. I mean, I would say that if you tried to get softs to the end from here, that would be a death
struggle.
sentence.
Mediums.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
mediums again for Alex Gillen. On they go. And away he goes in the Haas then. And that will drop them out behind, of course, GB68 and Benjamin Daly. But, of course, he can now go all the way to the end. They will have to stop again. So, again, these are the different sort of factors and strategies that have to be taken into account here. The other thing to consider, too, is, of course, what Alex was talking about earlier on in the race, both during the first stint and then that most recent stint, where they are having to conserve. They were burning too much ERS early on, and now they also have to save fuel. And speak of the devil, right on the radio, pretty light on fuel. Let's hope for a safety car.
Goodness me. Well, there we have it. Leaving everything on the line here, Alex Gillen. It's not just tyres, it's fuel as well. Truly a bizarre race. We haven't necessarily seen a majorly strategical race in the history of the Creator Series. It has been somewhat lacking, I would say, in many ways, but we've got a serious one here. M-Sky-Z, 0.8 of a second away from El Reyguri now, and has broken to within DRS, and indeed in a lap he has managed to achieve that as well. Remember, it was 0.5 and he gained on El Reyguri only the lap prior. Well, he's gained a little bit more again this time, around 0.3 of a second more gained by M-Sky-Z on El Reyguri on the last lap alone. So over the last 2 laps has gained very nearly a whole second. Just 0.2 off that fact as they now hurdle through turn 14. We got a lot of movement further down as Peya splits the difference between Tiamat Marduk and GB. Tiamat Marduk needs to try and get past Peya here. Can't afford to stay behind because it does mean that their plan of working together is going to come to a bitter end. But just look at this, the use of the overtake coming into fruition here for the Aussie as he now looks up the inside now and moves up into 7th place and will now look to charge after GB to try and reignite their team working fight to work their way through the classification. But next on their list is going to be Noiguera. GB68 though has got 2.7 seconds to find to make that happen.
Yeah, ignite their fight. Well, apparently we're joined by a poet and we didn't know it there with George Morgan. But there we go then. So we've got Hayden Gullis into the pits then in the Red Bull, not their teammate El Reyguri, who maintains their place out in second at the head of the field. Hayden then down to 17th, just coming out behind Safso as well. So the pair of them opting for a set of medium tyres each. So that is going to be, again, a run to the end here, you would imagine, between the pair of them. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening from here. I tell you what, though, a driver who is really, I mean, bizarre strategies to one side. Driver who's really impressed me today is GB68. Starts at the back of the field and is now running in 6th place. That is very, very good running from them. And if you would have to say that if they'd maybe gone for some different strategies, then on track they could maybe be even higher right now. But of course, maybe the potential would be a little bit lower as far as what they could do next is concerned. And as you can see here, working well with Mr. Daly, the championship leader.
Yep, both working together very well indeed. Obviously, it could only have been up for GB68 off where he started. I mean, it all happened really at the race start where he moved himself up to 12th place right on the opening lap. And now currently sees himself 7th place and working with Tiamat Marduk as they look to try and close the gap on Noiguera further up the order. 20 laps now remain here at Shanghai. And M-Sky-Z now on the tail of El Reyguri this time. So now these two coming together. We've obviously noted the previous battles, the previous scuffles, the encounters that these two have had over the course of time in the EAF1 Creator Series. And I tell you what, many of them have ended in tears. Hopefully it doesn't happen again this time. But El Rey flashing on the back of his car suggests that he is suffering some energy depletion here at this point as they hurtle around the middle sector. They've got another left-hander to take before they venture down the semi-straight through towards turn 11. A slight elevation rise will take them through then towards turn 12. You can just see their Sky-Z haunting all over the rear of that Red Bull. Got 2 more corners to take as they come out of turn 12 and turn 13. The long straight to come. DRS will be useful here for M-Sky-Z to try and dispatch El Reyguri in a straight line. The rear light flashing on part of the Red Bull as they look to go wheel to wheel, heading through towards turn 14. A great chance here for Sky-Z, who takes it immediately, heading down in towards the apex. He will take second. Here comes Tiamat Marduk in 6th, soon to be 5th. Just look at the gap they managed to close on Noiguera. That is a sensational gap that they've managed to close. Remember, it was 2.6. Very quickly, it's led to Tiamat Marduk being moved up to 5th. Did Noiguera have an issue, do we think, Dan?
Must have been a bad exit out of the previous corner. It was such a for the gap that there was, I wouldn't have expected a move necessarily down the back straight there. So maybe Noigueira's lifted knowing that these drivers are coming through on quick tyres, but tyres with a limited shelf life. First of our penalties has come through now as well for curbs. 3 seconds for getting over the curbs a bit too much. So there we are then. For them, bit of a shame. It's turned a pretty forgetful day for them into one to definitely forget. But as it is then, up the inside, forceful move from GB68 there, trying to, of course, keep with Benjamin Daly at this stage. A little bit of wheel banging between himself and Noigueira there, maybe on the limit there, but both cars remaining on track, so I would say that's a bit of rubbing his racing there, nothing to really sniff at as far as they're concerned.
No, and GB's trying to close the gap this time on Tiamat Marduk for 5th place. Still remains 7/10 away, and still continuing to work together. Noigueira now down to 7th place after being dispatched by both cars ahead of him here. Meraki in 4th, 3.9 in a little bit of no man's land, but very quickly could be joined by Benjamin Daly and GB68. Should this continue, obviously in the same vein of fashion that we saw them close up to Noigueira. 2.2 now the gap between Meraki and Tiamat Marduk, as we now see Skyzy looking to try and get closer and closer to the back of Tom 97, who took the lead of the race after Alex Gillen boxed earlier on onto his fresher set of medium tyres. And now heading on lap 38 of 56. We're coming ever closer now to the final portions of this race. The McLaren, despite being out in front, is now being pursued by M-Sky-Z in a bid now for the lead of the race that M-Sky-Z held for quite some time on his really chunky opening stint of 26 laps on the medium tyres, has since now accrued 11 laps on his hards. Had a little think about it, there was a little bit of hesitation involved in Sky-Z's attempts at maybe trying to attack Tom 97 from the get-go here. Might choose to tactfully do it, heading down the long straight at the end of this lap, or coming towards the final stage of this lap. Into the pits comes Jorge Alberola. Hard tyres placed on his car and a front wing change. So obviously some damage sustained for Jorge, who's now got to leave the pits and has dropped down place after place, given the fact that he's had to take some extended time in the pit lane. But we will rejoin the action towards the front very shortly. Of course, we do have this battle accruing as now M-Sky-Z looks to try and close up on Tom 97. A great chance here now for Sky-Z to take this lead away from Tom 97. He'll now look to try and utilise the power of the DRS, the slipstream in his favour, as now we see Tom 97 defending to the inside, heading down through towards turn 14. There's nothing he can do about it. M-Sky-Z with that straight line speed has applied him so much through the start, the initial stint in the first echelons of this race. He has now retaken the lead, stamped his authority here at China, and looks set to become a 2-time race winner this season. But first of all, there's plenty of laps still to go, 17 in fact, before he can even get to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some indication in chat that GB doesn't have a fresh set of softs available. I'm not sure how accurate that necessarily is. He didn't really do very much in qualifying, so I think he should have plenty of softs remaining. To my knowledge, he did a bit of messing about on the intermediate tyres and then got himself disqualified, so didn't really use any softs at all. So I would assuade that assertion pretty strongly there. Unless we see them come out on a set of mediums, I'm not going to believe it unless I see it. But as it is then, out the pits comes Jake in the Williams there. Set of mediums to the end now, this will be. And they've certainly given themselves a good buffer here. They can push those mediums all the way to the end now. They won't need to save them at all or anything like that. Radio from Benjamin Daly would have liked the DRS off of Meraki, he says. Well, clearly the Williams driver wise to it. And there we go. That was coming from Alex Gillen's chat from GB's chat, apparently. So basically, we are playing Chinese whispers whilst we do a Chinese Grand Prix.
Chinese whispers. How appropriate.
How appropriate indeed, yes, absolutely. But as it is then, we've got M-Sky-Z back in the lead of this Grand Prix. 6/10 to the good right now. That is coming down, but that is because Tom 97 has got DRS on them right now. But I'd give it another lap or two, and I think that the overall greater performance of those hard tyres compared to those mediums, for the difference in age, for the way in which they're being looked after, etc., we'll see M-Sky-Z breaking the DRS of Tom 97 in, as I say, a lap or two's time.
Yep. Heading through now towards turn 1 yet again. We're on lap 40 of 56, 16 laps to go. M-Sky-Z still out in front. Into the pits comes Noigueira. And now Alex Gillen moves up to 6th place now on 6-lap old medium tyres. Peya now into 7th. Nogueira coming in for a change of rubber now this time around. Of course, Meraki will be hoping to jump Nogueira here in this instance, but there's quite a mammoth of a gap there separating the pair, but Meraki managing to move on through. And Infratic will be coming next, and he is on 12-lap-old hard tyres, so we'll no doubt be looking to get those to the very end. There he is now, Fabio, who remains behind Nogueira, who immediately comes out ahead and will no doubt still maintain it because he's on soft tyres, though even around, despite only having 16 laps left, that is still quite the stint to be done on soft tyres here.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing myself. It's going to be marginal, I think, when it comes to the performance of those tyres. He's going to need to essentially hit the ground running, get the moves done early, get a gap formed nice and early as well, and then hope that that gap is not eaten up come the end of the stint, end of the race, really. That's the really the only thing that they can do there. So, yeah, that's that for them. Tom, you got to feel for at this stage. Down in 17th place on 10-lap-old soft tyres, just in behind Vince, who's on brand new fresh medium, so they will be able to pull away pretty easily from Tom at this stage. Tom all the way back there because Alpine didn't change their front wing earlier on. So it's, yeah, a real shame. But ultimately, it's one of these things that can happen in sim racing. You know, if you're not entirely certain of all of the buttons that you've pressed and all the options in the menu you've got set, then you can end up coming a cropper as a result, and an entire race result can then get away from you. Fair play to them for having stuck it out this whole time all the way at the back of the field, but I think that they're hoping and praying for a safety car that may not come. I mean, I certainly hope I've not jinxed that, but certainly at this stage, I want to see what happens with all of these different strategies and how they may come together or not at the end of the race. And that would just be ruined by a safety car coming out at this stage.
Yeah, Pei are also moving on to a fresh set of soft tyres as well. So it's gone from soft to soft here in these closing stages, and has followed suit pretty much with what Nogueira's decided to do. Infratic now up to 9th place on the hard tyres. Top 97 Team Radio. Got to grit my teeth to stick with MSkyZ. It's going to be a tough job, Tom. He's been flirting with DRS now for quite some time, and obviously as this race pans out, SkyZ is on hards, and I must say, the tyre life is in the favour of MSkyZ. Tom 97 on those mediums, and despite obviously the hards degrading probably a little bit more than what the mediums are necessarily, I would argue that the medium tyre has been the better race tyre here at China. You cannot deny the fact that these are hard tyres that will go the distance here at this point. So SkyZ still very much in the pound seats right now, but Tom 97 working so hard to try and retain this DRS. It's going to be an almighty struggle, and into the pits he comes. So a very late call here for Tom 97. That's bold, it's brave. The big question is it brilliant?
Well, we'll wait and see. It's undeniably going to be a set of soft tyres at this stage. Lap 42, maybe a little bit earlier than I would have thought. I would have said maybe lap 44 would be a safe time to go for a set of tyres. Look at that there. McLaren's got invisible pit gantry materials there, clearly. But that just shows how advanced and incredibly powerful the working base squad is. And I won't have a single bad thing said against them. But in terms of that, then, that's released him straight into the path of Meraki, who's got those tyres up to temperature. They've got potential track position here, but as they come through the first couple of corners, then it's going to be a tight battle here between the two cars as they make their run down towards that hairpin that comes not too far away from here. It's going to be all about who is braver on the brakes. I think Jake rather is going to go for it. Will they? No, they don't. They deny us the drama. I was ready to just feast upon all the salty tears when the move was made and contact was made, but sadly we're denied it.
Yeah, well, we might not be denied that much longer because, of course, we still have the small matter of a few corners to go here in Sector 2, and then we've got the long straight on Sector 3. That'll open up the DRS for Meraki in a hope to try and batter down Tom 97 for that P6. And remember, Tom 97 has got 10.5 seconds to find on Alex Gillen, who's in P5. But remember, Gillen with very little fuel remaining and does have 8 laps accrued on his medium tyres with still a fair portion of the race still to go as they now head out now of turns 13. Heading down this long straight now, DRS will open up here for Meraki, and he will no doubt use it here. Has no need to use the overtake. Despite the very little energy, he won't need it. He's going to look to the outside, and certainly no defence applied from Tom 97. Probably applied his brakes a little earlier than anticipated. Tim McMardock now coming in. Not a surprise, because the time was not coming down between he and Alex Gillen as well. GB68, despite being in P3, Tim McMardock looking for his final stop as he now moves on two fresh soft tyres. So there we have it, coming back out of the pits very shortly. His mission is to try and break away from Nogueira, who now moves into 7th place, and he will also, I'd imagine, be in the thick of the fight between Meraki and Alex Gillen. Or should I say Meraki and Tom 97, but there is still a finer point of 9 seconds to whittle down. It could be the case that Tiemet Marduk is going to have to settle for where he started, and that was 7th place.
I would be a bit more optimistic than that. I think they probably can get a higher position. I think that Tom 97 is within striking distance if the gaps sort of maintain as they are right now, because those soft tyres will give it Ben an awful lot of performance. I think that with over 10 laps to go, the softs should be able to still deliver performance of over a second a lap, which should get them onto the back of Tom 97 and Meraki. But I don't see them getting on the podium. I don't see them getting anything as a majorly good result out of all of this. There is the potential to maybe move ahead of El Rey Guri, because of course, remember, that particular driver needs to get another pit stop done before the end of the race. Otherwise, they'll be disqualified. They've gone from one set of mediums to another. But when it comes to the overall fight for the win, I mean, if they hadn't already caught and passed the leader before they went into the pits, then what chance have they got to then catch and pass them again on another stint of these tyres? This is why I was saying this is not looking like the strongest strategy out there. Into the pits, though, goes El Rey Guri. So too does GB68. So El Rey essentially covering off, without realising it, the Aston Martin and the Ferrari, of course, of Benjamin Daly as well. Putting himself on a set of equal tyres to go to the end with those two. So that then protects them nicely from that. Radio from Alex Gillen says fuel is minus 2.2.
This looks like the game's up here for Alex Gillen here at this point. Minus 2.2 certainly suggests that he is going to come to a grinding halt before the end of this race. More specifically, lap 40. Well, it could be lap 54 as we make our way through the latter portions of this truly astounding Chinese Grand Prix. There's GB68, who was exited the pit lane. He's now also on fresh soft tyres, a lap fresher than Tiemet Marduk nonetheless. Gareth Allen, you've got an update for us.
Yeah, GB68, Tiemet Marduk, they've been working together for a long, long time here, but I think Tiemet Marduk pulled a bit of a blinder and went for the undercut. That's a 2-second gap there. The alliance has been broken, and Tiemet Marduk was looking at Alex Gillen, was looking at his fuel situation and trying to make sure that he got no DRS so he could conserve fuel. And that's what triggered the initial soft stop anyway. As soon as they heard Alex Gillen having fuel issues, that's when they thought, well, let's not catch Alex Gillen and give him some free recharge and opportunity to lift and coast down the straight. So let's pit, work together. But then Ben, right at the end there, just going for it, not telling GB that they're working together. And that has proved fruitful. 2.6 seconds a gap now.
Yeah, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on GB. Thank you, Gareth, for that. We are getting some insight as well from the chat. Big thank you to Dan James. Correction, Alex is on 1.23 and not 2.2. So it's not necessarily as bad, but still, I would say 1.2 still a major issue, and it does hamper performance as well. 10 seconds now between Gillen and M Sky Z as we just see the fastest lap being brought upon the grid by Tiemet Marduk. Purple final sector leading to that 112, I think he's managed, or certainly the 132 he's managed to nestle in. Sorry, just reading the telemetry screen. Certainly not 112 around this Chinese circuit. A 132.870 on part of Tiemet Marduk, and he's just gone purple again in the first sector. So very much looking to finish this race in a very quick fashion as Jorge Albarola's retired. So we got a DNF, a caution in sector 1 and 3. Is he in the pits? I think he might be. Yes, he is. He's retired in the pit lane, so no concerns of a safety car, but Jorge Albarola, feeling that his day is done, he's out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. For a moment there, my heart fluttered, because then all of a sudden we would be bunching the whole pack up together, and poor old M Sky Z, who's not really put a foot wrong this race, would have that near 10-second lead demolished through no fault of their own. So I think then there's definitely potential here for Ben Daly, for GB68. I mean, look at this. They're already on the back of Nogueira are Ben Daly. So that's already one car that was several seconds up the road they've been able to catch and now pass, that you can see there on the timing tower as well. So when it comes to all of that, then they should be able to catch up onto the back of El Rey. If not, then at least go with El Rey up towards the back of Meraki. They're then tightly packed together with Tom 97 as well. So I would say there's now maybe a potential for a podium here for Ben, because even if El Rey still finishes ahead of them, Ben is on the charge. You can see there quite clearly. He's putting in some great lap times here and now. And Alex Gillen with 1.2 laps worth of fuel saving need doing. Well, he can't do what you could do, of course, in times gone by in the F1 games and in F1 generally and change the engine mode of the ICE. You can't therefore put it into lean mix and then hope that that gets you to the end nicely. So instead, you're going to have to lift and coast. You're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. And that is, of course, not a particularly quick way to get around a racing circuit, particularly when the drivers behind you are going at such a pace and with presumably no fuel concerns of their own, that they will be able to catch you and then pass you very easily indeed.
Another element that will be helping Tim Emarduk along is the fact that Alex Gillen, with his fuel issues, I mean, if he does run out of fuel prior to the end of this race, that is automatically another place gain. So that'll move him up to P5. And then once he's on the tail of El Rey Guri, of course, that'll move him up to P4 should he get the move done. So, and then off that basis, I mean, there's a chance he could be on the tail of Tom 97 and his battle with Meraki as well. So there's still a lot on the table. You never know. The Aussie might astound us. It wouldn't be the first time. And it would be a truly magnificent performance if he was to do so. The good news for him is that because he started P7, now being in P6, it means he's automatically one place ahead of where he started. So at least that's progression in many ways. As now Meraki hurtles up through towards turn 1, hunting down after Tom 97 this time around. Lap 47 of 56. 9 laps still to go. Driver of the Day vote is now open, so be sure to use !DOTD to make sure you can, well, make sure you vote for your Driver of the Day. Get involved and let us know who your selection is, folks at home. As now we watch Meraki make his way through towards the next right-hander, still pursuing after Tom 97 and Alex Gillen. Given the fact that he's trying to fuel save right now, he's going to be a sitting duck here, Dan.
Yeah, this is it's going to be a massacre, really. It's going to be very easy indeed for them to end up being passed. But you know, it's still a very, very good bit of driving that we've seen so far here today. I think that when it comes to Tom 97 here, I mean, they're right on the back of Alex Gillen right now. Alex, as we know, needs to fuel save, needs to slow everything down a bit in order to get to the end of this race, and they're going to be passed there straight away. DRS detection is all the way back there, so that means that there's no risk to Tom 97 doing that, other than the risk of just potentially losing the car. But now then, they'll get to the line, DRS will open for the Williams and for the McLaren, but not for the Haas, and so as they go storming their way down the back straight here. Is there going to be a late dive from Jake? No, not this time. So easy DRS passes then for both those cars. Alex Gillen shuffled off of the podium, and that then means that they've now got El Rey Guri behind them. 3.6 seconds is the gap, and that is rapidly coming down as Alex lifts out of the throttle more than they would like.
Yeah, this battle for P2 is going to be rampant. Obviously, Skyzy now very well and truly clear ahead, and obviously the initial stint being absolutely imperative to M Skyzy's result here so far. 10.7 now ahead of Tom 97. Obviously that early amassment of delta between he and those behind has led to this point where he has now managed to consolidate this lead advantage. Tom 97 now, despite holding on to second, Meraki with a very patient decision heading in towards turn 14 to remain behind Tom 97 but get past Alex Gillen, who is currently fuel saving, and now off the back of that, El Rey Guri starting to get closer and closer to the Haas as well, and also Tim Emarduk trying to get closer and closer in his own right too. Noiguera further back with GB68 looking to try and close this gap too. Though I will say, GB not closing up to Noiguera as much as Tim Emarduk did earlier on here, Dan.
No, not at all. And I don't know if that's just a bit of conservative driving from GB or whether it's more just the fact that Noiguera is sticking with Ben, and therefore that 3-second gap that existed between Ben and GB by the time that Ben caught Noiguera is now just not coming down, and so therefore Noiguera being pulled along by DRS is then just meaning that the gap between him and GB is also not decreasing. So, you know, that's that. Alex Gillen overtaken now by El Rey Guri as well, so that then shuffles them even further back down the pack. It's now 3.9 seconds between himself and Benjamin Daly. And, of course, those two have never been known to have a crash with one another, never been known to have a go at each other for leaving room or not, George. So, clearly, if Ben does get towards the back of him, it'll be a nice, clean, easy move.
Yeah, you'd expect so, given the fact that Tim Emarduk is on those faster tyres and Alex Gillen is on 15-lap-old mediums, and on top of that trying to fuel save. It shouldn't take too long for the Aussie to get onto the back of Gillen's car. There you can see Gillen in shot. We just saw him briefly coming out of turn 3 and turn 4. And Tim Emarduk is hot on his heels right now and has already managed to amass an incredible, I would say, 8/10 in the space of a sector, which is truthfully amazing, really. But just goes to show the difference in obviously the hindrance that the lack of fuel has caused Alex Gillen here at this point. It's a mission enough with 15-lap-old mediums. You can imagine that they're probably feeling like ice skates a little bit right now, given the fact that they've worn down quite a lot over the last 15 laps, as now we're witnessing Meraki make his way out of turn 13 and turns 12 and 13, should I say, heading down this long straight, still gunning after Tom 97, who is now a second clear of Meraki here at this stage, so has managed to try and push the advantage and has actually broken DRS on the Williams in behind. So a great run from Tom 97 to bridge that delta. And now, I tell you what, it's going to be tough for Meraki to close up, and he is flashing on that rear light too, Dan.
He is, yeah, and so that's just, I mean, it's happening for both of them, actually, in fairness. Tom 97 also got a bit of a flash there on the back of the McLaren, so the two of them are fighting each other so hard, trying not to give any
Tom's
bit of
closing
ground at all. Tom is closing in on the current front, though.
4 seconds.
You would expect that, though, given that it's, Tom 97 on 8-lap-old mediums versus MSkyZ's 23-lap-old hards. But is he going to catch at a second a lap between now and the end of the race? I'm not so certain on that one. And even if he does, as the late great Murray Walker used to say, catching is one thing, passing is another. And Alex Gillen then has lost 4 positions now, in fact, since they started fuel saving. This is going to be number 5, and they still have another 0.08 to save. They've only managed to save 1/3 of the fuel required since they got to that 1.2 under target.
I can tell you, it's not over yet, mind. Just looking at the gap on the last lap, and Tom 97 was 2.2 seconds faster than MSkyZ. So I'm starting to wonder whether there might be something in this. 23 laps accrued on the hard tyres of MSkyZ, 8 laps on Tom 97. It's now 5.1, and it's still coming down. So concerns could be on the table for MSkyZ right now. That one-stop strategy might start to slip away because Tom 97 is starting to go to work. The question is, will there be enough before the very end? This is intriguing. I tell you what, folks, grab your popcorn. It's now 4.8, 4.9, 4.7, 4.6. It is still coming down, and Tom 97 starting to usher in some serious deltas here. 1:35.7, the last lap from SkyZ. Tom 97 with a 1:33.7. Another 2 seconds accrued from Tom 97 alone on the last lap.
What on earth is going on with MSkyZ? I wasn't quite aware of just how much time he was losing per lap here. That had completely flown over my head. And so there must be a problem on that car, surely. Has he clouted a curb and ended up damaging his floor or something? Or is he... tyre degradation is what I'm hearing in my ear. And so, I mean, given that they're 24-lap-old hards that were put on after the halfway point in the race, where, you would expect, therefore, that they would be, able to go to the end very easily, in fact, that is a massive surprise to me. I think that this is, that's a real shame for MSkyZ, because any conventional strategy would have said that they were on the best strategy here. It's certainly going to bring the pack back towards them, might even have the pack overtake them a bit here, but will they fall off the podium? I'm not entirely certain. If I had to have a guess here at this stage, I'm going to say that he's going to come third if it continues to fall down quite as much as it did on the last lap, but this lap it hasn't come down by quite as much as that.
No, not quite. In the first sector, he was, in fact, 2 to 3 tenths slower MSkyZ in the first sector. The second sector was a lot more, 5 tenths in fact. So Tom 97 going to work here, 3.5. This could be a really, really astounding finale to this Chinese Grand Prix. GB68 now in 6. 1.3 away from Tiamat Marda. Jorge Alberola leaving the session, not a surprise, of course, retiring earlier on. MSkyZ, though, still out in front, but for how much longer can he hold on? It's 3.3 now between Tom 97 and MSkyZ for this lead of the race, and Rob has retired as well. Now, is that in the pit lane? I think it is. Yeah, in the pits here, so no concerns, certainly no safety cars. I mean, that would just be the cherry on top of MSkyZ's cake here at this stage. I mean, just look at the string of soft tyres we have in behind as well. El Riguri on the tail of Meraki here at this stage too. 3 tenths between these two in the battle for third place. The Williams occupying it for now, but the Red Bull could be about to spoil his day as they look to go nose to tail, heading through this slalom through the middle sector. and then in towards the next left-hander. They've got a double left to take and then a semi-straight, which will lead them through towards turn 11, and then they'll send uphill before then tackling down that long straight again. 2.8 seconds now between Tom 97 and M Sky Z. It's still coming down as well. Tom 97 is a man on a mission and is looking to upset the balance of this race for M Sky Z. He could yet do it. El Rey Guri also on the attack for third as well, getting right on the rear of Meraki, who is not energy saving this time, but it might be too little too late. Here comes El Rey Guri on the softs, up to third, does the Spanish guard, moves down into turn 14. He'll ascend out of it now. He's on the podium. Can he hold it? M Sky Z might not be holding to P1 much longer. Tom 97 now only 2.3 seconds away from ascending to the race lead.
This is very interesting. I mean, in the chat, it's been suggested now that we've got M Sky Z saving fuel. So maybe potentially similar problem as what we saw with Alex Gillen earlier on. And so that for... Oh, GB68 just passed Tiamat Marduk! They've closed down that gap of 2 seconds, and they've made the move on the Ferrari. What on earth has happened between the pair of them there? Tom 97 saying they are trying to lift and coast, but Skyzy has to as well. And so as they get closer together, they're clearly recognizing more and more that more fuel saving is required on both cars. Oh, this could end up being a tasty finish here. Sadly for these two drivers that we're seeing, or these three drivers in shot right now, I don't think they're going to factor into this battle at the end at all between the leaders, but it's certainly between Skyzy, Tom, and El Rey. It could be anybody's race at this stage. If Tom has got to do fuel saving as well, then that could invite El Rey into the fight with them later on too. So this is all feeling very interesting in these latter stages. But those big advancements, those big strides forward that we saw for Tom 97 have massively reduced the last few laps. He's still been catching at a very, very good rate, don't get me wrong, but it's no longer looking quite as empirical as it was earlier on. And so as a result of that, 1.7 seconds now separates the two cars. They're going to come round the last couple of corners now then. That's going to be the end of this particular lap. We'll be on to then lap 54 out of 56. So he's not far away. He could still pull this off, could Tom 97. But if at this point Skyzy has saved enough fuel, he can now just go back up to normal racing speed and I would suspect maintain the lead of this race.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's what he's trying to do. The last lap alone, it was not necessarily a spectacular, but it was 5/10 the difference between Tom 97 and M Sky Z. And if he was to put another 5/10 against it, that'll bring it down to 1.2. Another 5/10 would mean it's a last lap dash for the win. Obviously, Skyzy's, as far as Skyzy's concerned, he needs to make sure that Tom 97 doesn't break into DRS, because that will mean that Skyzy is going to be under pressure on the final lap of the race. I mean, it does seem that the interval is starting to come to an end now, where the Skyzy is conscious of the fact that Tom 97 is closing. At the same time, over the last few laps, conserving some of the energy and the fuel as well. Maybe just trying to leave everything to the very last moments, and it does seem that it's stagnating right now. But nonetheless, we've still got 2 laps of running still to go. Looking in the first sector, already I can tell you that Skyzy this time around was 500ths faster than Tom 97.
I have a suspicion that M Sky Z's done all the fuel saving they need to do. Tom still needs to do some. I also have a sneaking suspicion that at this stage, with tyres that are, if I'm reading this correctly on our graphic here, 12 laps old, that Tom 97 has now used kind of the best of the medium tyre, where they've got the greatest offset in terms of fresh versus old compared to M Sky Z's tyres. That then puts them into a much more equal and level playing field. Not quite equal and level, but closer to that than what we saw earlier on. GB is now who we're having a look at here. And as they go down into that final chicane then, they have got the Driver of the Day award. 35% the vote there. Thank you to everybody who has put your vote in for that. Driver of the Day is GB68 just before we get onto the last couple of laps here, and he's still got some work to do. He's 8.2 seconds off the back of Meraki and El Rey Guri, so they're not going to be getting any podiums anytime soon unless there is drama in these top 3 in the field here. And so as it is then, it's still been a very good drive from P20 up to P5 for GB68, including beating Tiamat Marduk, who's on a similar, if not the exact same strategy, and the pair of them working together and gaining 15 places over, of course, the one that Ben got earlier on. Another big shout out for Hayden, Gullis and Safso. Pair of them both up massively from where they started, as you can see there. 6 places for Hayden, 7 for Safso, and well inside the points as well. Reminder, point system here in the F1 Creator Series is for the top 15 drivers, not the top 10. But as it is, George, we've got 1.7 seconds between our race leaders at this point in time as they're coming towards the end of this lap.
Yeah, and I will say Tom97 is actually quicker on this lap this time around. Has broken down the delta a little bit, but obviously needed to be within DRS ideally on this lap just so he could launch a last-minute charge. There you can see them both together in shot this time. SkyZ leading, Tom97 in second place. They'll come round turn 14 now. The tail whipping out on part of SkyZ here this time, and apparently very minimal fuel on part of MSkyZ, and the rear light is flashing. So there we have it. It can all be said and done on this final lap, and Tom97 has broken to within DRS. It's not over just yet. They'll come through turn 1. I tell you what, the sticking point is going to be coming out of turn 13, Dan.
It certainly is. It's going to be how you apply the power onto that back straight. It's how you're going to end up then moving down towards that hairpin at the end of it. And then, of course, when you get onto the brakes there's going to be hard tyres that are over 25 laps old versus mediums that are about 13, 14 laps old. So there's going to be a big grip offset there. So Tom just needs to get close enough to give it the big old Daniel Ricciardo style dive bomb, and he could end up getting this place right at the death of the race here. But we'll stay with this one for the rest of the final lap unless anything majorly dramatic happens elsewhere. But as it is, then you can see just Carver on the wheel for what have we seen there, where we've had a bit of a moment for MSkyZ just up in front. Of course, you can see both cars here massively lacking in terms of their ERS deployment. There's the flashing light on the back of MSkyZ's car, but then you can also see there the battery charge on the steering wheel of Tom97 is incredibly low as well. He's using it regardless. He's powering out that last corner before the start-finish, the back straight, I should say. Now with the ERS open, this should be an easy move. Moves to the left-hand side. He gets the move done. He moves ahead of MSkyZ, and now does the Frenchman have anything in his locker? Not this time. Not into the final hairpin. What about the final corner? It doesn't seem to be. It's not going to be the day of Vive la France, but instead it's going to be Viva España as Tom Martinez comes through the final corner and across the line to win the Chinese Grand Prix.
Incredible, for the first time he'll win at China, our third time we've raced here in Creator Series history. No doubt one of the most bizarre finishes, one of the most bizarre races we have ever seen in the F1 Creator Series, and Tom97 with a well-managed strategy, a well-managed performance, given the fact that fuel became a factor in the dying laps. He took full advantage, he took him on the final lap, through the final sector. MSkyZ did not have enough to hang on. A one-stop strategy that would not garner in P1 on this occasion. It would be Martinez who takes the ultimate spoils here at the Chinese Grand Prix here in the EA F1 Creator Series. A great opportunity now for him to put a stranglehold in his own right on this championship, despite missing one race so far this campaign back at Japan. That's his second podium this campaign, on top of the Inters pole and the P2 and pole position overall that he achieved at our fan-voted race last time out. What a performance from Tom Martinez. Meraki finishing in third as well. But that will go down, in my view, in history. It was quiet in portions, but the greatest finale we have ever seen in an EA F1 Creator Series race.
100%. That was brilliant. That was a great conclusion. I mean, after all of that, after all the strategies playing out, it was almost like a condensed endurance race. In endurance racing, I often say the first and the last hour are the only interesting bits. Everything in between is just everyone working out their own strategies, and that sort of is what it felt like here. There was obviously plenty of action in the middle of the race. It was great fun to watch all the way through. As you say, quieter at times, more exciting than others, but those differing strategies, they all came together, and then the cars converged. We got that good bit of fighting at the end. I must say, I do feel sorry for MSkyZ. They'd piled all that pressure onto themselves, we heard in the interview earlier on, and then as it came down to it, just a mistake in those last few crucial corners before the back straight, and that then led to them losing out big time. And that then is still second place. It's still ahead of Ben Daly, and so therefore the gap at the top of the championship will close up slightly, but he will not be overtaking him anytime soon. To run you through the full order, we've then got, of course, Tom97 taking that win with MSkyZ and Meraki on the podium. Then from 4th place down, we have Elray Yuri, GB68, Tiamat Marduk, Noiguera, Alex Gillen, Peya, Safso, Hayden Gullis, Dat Guy Vince, Infratic, Matty D13, I'll wait a moment, then Chesnoy Gaming, Tom, Dave Gaming, Curbs, and then we've got there Unstop Rob and Jorge Alberola? As your Jorge anyway, getting themselves the last spot on the podium there. I must apologise, I could not read that writing for the life of me. It was so pixelated on my screen. But yes, there we are then, folks. That is the full rundown of the order there. And George, I must say, that was all very exciting indeed, wasn't it?
That is a dramatic finale, folks at home. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a corker, wasn't it? I mean, incredible. I mean, we did allude to the fact that Tom97 managed to gain so much delta in those closing laps, but it all looked to come undone towards the very end, where it seemingly looked that MSkyZ had enough to close out the race. He was apparently on 0.05 of fuel to go. While obviously it wasn't negative, it's still very minute right at the tail end. Still would have needed a careful hand to bring it across the line. Regardless, though, he did have a lot of laps accrued on those hard tyres. We've got to give him certainly a massive round of applause for achieving the one-stop strategy, first and foremost, because he was the only driver to achieve that. Big thank you as well goes out to Curbs and Zafso as well for the raids. Big thank you, guys, for that. Big thank you to you viewers at home as well. But, I mean, Gareth, I'm going to bring you in on this because obviously it was a tremendous performance. What did you make of it?
I mean, a fantastic race. 2 fantastic battles right at the end there. Of course, first and second between Tom97, but also Meraki going super close to the line. I'm actually going to show you a quick clip of this. So going down the start-finish straight, Meraki took 3rd position off of Elray Giri, and then if we skip ahead to the actual end of the race, it was so close over the line, and I wonder if chat actually think this is a bit beyond, because Meraki really closed down the gap as they come to the line. He was already celebrating, but he saw Elray going and he pushes him hard left. And it was a really fantastic little scrap right at the end. But, I mean, just a really enjoyable race. Full of moments that were always going to build to that. The strategies at play, really fascinating listening into the team radios that I was. I mean, GB68 and Tiamat Marduk remarking that it felt like a Season 3 race when the strategies weren't really known about a track. And I think that comes down to the fact that we don't really race around China too much. 3 or 4 different strategies there. And it was certainly 3 different strategies that ended up on the podium. It was a really, really good race.
Yeah, it certainly was, and you're absolutely spot on. We've only been here 3 times, including this one, and obviously it is very much an unknown. Various numbers of these drivers that have obviously competed in Creator Series, most of them do as well compete in other leagues as well, but none of them would have necessarily encountered China on the grid, especially considering the fact that it's only just recently returned as of this weekend to the Formula 1 calendar. So there we have it. Truly remarkable, and you've got to say credit to Tom97. That was a very ballsy strategy. I mean, there was a lot of question marks towards the very end, given the fact that they came so close together. It seemed that the gap was just too far out, but nonetheless truly remarkable. We do have interviews as well. Folks are going to be bringing in Meraki.
Yeah, no, it's still a good race.
Into the commentary box. Welcome, Meraki. I mean, what a sensational race on your part. A very hellacious finish as well in your own right.
Honestly, 55 laps of that was the worst thing of my life. I hated it. and then lap 56, I guess it all kind of kicked off, I guess. So I'm happy. Like I said, it didn't really kick off, but...
Well, I mean, listen, was the strategy the plan that you came up with? I mean, obviously, there were so many people who opted to change strats midway through the course of the race. You know, we saw Ben come off his hard tyres very early in the stint. GB did exactly the same. Was the plan for you always the one you mapped out through the course of the race?
Initially, I wanted to try a hard medium, but then it got to a point where my hards were so bad at the end, I just had to get off of them and go onto the mediums at the on that second stint. And I think a lot of people went onto softs, which around here they're not very good race tyres because they die after like 7 laps. So I was just trying my absolute hardest to avoid those. So I probably could have extended that middle stint a bit more and went softs at the end and made them last, but it wouldn't have been worth it. So I just put the mediums on and was just pushing pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous fight. Obviously, we witnessed quite a busy sprint race. I want to talk to you, in fact, about the big moment that happened going out of turn 11, because, of course, you caught the tail of that guy Vince's moment coming out through the final sector. We saw your car go motoring on through.
Oh, yeah.
What was your perspective of that one?
Just avoid it. There wasn't really much I could do.
As easy as that.
Yes.
That was not the conversation going on in here, Jake. I'm just going to put it out there now.
I knew he was on like really I guess older tires than me, so I had to kind of like clear him. So it was kind of just get ahead really. But at that point I had no battery, so luckily we got ahead. But did he move onto the racing line? That's what we want to know. Well, that's what Dan Gilligan wants to know anyway.
I want to know.
I genuinely, I don't know. Okay, I
That's
can't
not
remember
good enough,
it, to be
Jake.
honest.
That's not good enough. Give me a proper answer.
If you have a clip of it right now, then I'll watch it and I'll give you a live reaction. But I genuinely cannot remember it. Like, it was such a
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I bet the nerves though were there. Final corner, you and El Rey Guri. We know the history of El Rey. We've seen stuff in the past. Was there a little bit of nerves? Was there a Code Brown moment going through the final sector?
Yeah. Just a bit, but I'm surprised he tried playing DRS chicken as early as he did, because that made his intentions really clear. So I knew with like a 7-second gap behind Ben, or it's behind to Ben, I could stop in the middle of the track if I wanted to and still be fine. So yeah, it was just a matter of getting the DRS, because I knew we had no battery, and then I did the one thing that I never do, and that's cover the inside, and I guess it works. So it was fun at the end.
Yeah, well, that's 2 P3s in your last 3 races, so that's not bad at all. Still got somewhat of a chance. Yes, you did, but that doesn't help my point of 2 P3s in the last 3 races. So no self-praise here, mate. But yeah, looking ahead, you are now, in fact, still very much in contention for a decent result this season. Only 19 points away from where Team at Marduk was earlier on this campaign. Of course, we've got Singapore coming up very soon. What are your thoughts heading through the last few rounds?
I like Singapore a lot.
Like
is only 2 races left, or is it 3?
We've got 3 here, I think, according to my screen. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like Singapore a lot. I think it's probably one of my better tracks. So let's see.
First win of the season?
Maybe, or I can try and win the championship without winning a single race. I think that can be this season's challenge or something. I don't know.
Could be. Instead of the silly start from the back idea.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I started at the back the last 2 races and I got podiums in both of them. So
no, I'm not denying it.
Yeah,
no, it probably didn't. I mean, off the back of what we saw today, of course, GB managed to secure a P5 after starting for P20. So, I think it's fair to say.
I was just stat padding driver of the day, because it does it based on positions gained. So,
that
was all.
Fair enough. Yeah, perfect. Well, credit to you, mate. Another podium going your way. That is your 3rd of the campaign, and we'll look ahead to Singapore.
3rd in a row as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. All the very best.
Bye-bye.
See you in a bit, mate. So that's Meraki, everybody, who is now making his merry way onto yet another podium, and I think obviously has every right to be confident given his performance. Truly remarkable. We will be bringing in, I believe, MSkyZ as well very soon. And we do have on the understanding that apparently SkyZ is muted right now. So we're going to bring Tom97 into the box and talk about his incredible final lap performance. It truly was remarkable. Tom, welcome to the commentary box. Race winner here this campaign. A race winner in only our 3rd visit to China. And on top of that, a final lap overtake at turn 14, which I must say, I mean, the race was bizarre enough. Some of the strategies were bizarre, but you seemed so focused, so primed. You knew exactly what you were doing from start to finish, and those final laps were heroic, my friend. Well done.
Cheers. Really interesting race. Credit to Sky. He was the quickest driver today. He was the quicker man. I just think strategy was better on my side, and that won me the race. Really tricky race because, so many strategies going on, and all 3 compounds being used. My head was spinning. Like at one point, Ben and GB were a genuine threat because I thought they were doing all right. And the best strategy was Alex. Alex with a soft medium done the best strat, but then he had fuel trouble, so that kind of cost him the race. But he was actually doing okay. So there was a lot going on in my head. But anyway, once I found out Alex had fuel trouble and Ben and G were going for a 3-stop, I knew it was just me versus Sky. And I knew Sky had less fuel than me. So it was like waiting until that moment would arrive. And the key element also was the hard tire. The hard tire was horrible. Really, really horrible. I cut my first stint short and switched to a 2. Done a medium second half of the race. Especially once I saw Sky was going to go for the hard. And it was just basically trying to catch him. And then at the end I was kind of managing. So he was managing fuel, I was managing battery. Bit of like a chess match. So I'm trying to time it when to pass him, when he's going to run out of fuel. So we got it right.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, looking at the tyre performance graphic when it popped up from time to time, we noticed that the hards, despite being on, should we say, in certain cases, being younger than some mediums, degrading more than the medium tyre over the course of the race. Was that something that you were witnessing in your own right?
Basically, yeah. I noticed Ben abandoned his first stint off the hards very early in the start at the beginning of the race. And once I hit that first phase, that 25%, I just fell off. Sky drove away in the first stint. El Rey drove away in the first stint. I was getting caught by Nogueira, and that's when I pulled the trigger and pit because I just did not. I was just falling behind, and there was nothing I could do. The hard tire was okay within the first phase, but beyond that, it just did not work. So I was very happy. I knew the medium tire around China was the strongest tire. It's a very strong tire. It's one of the strongest tracks for the medium tire. So I was looking forward to getting onto that compound. So once I got that, it was just about trying to keep it clean and put the lap times in. I had to do some fuel management throughout the race. I knew I was a bit marginal, but we got to the last 15 laps with the right amount, so then I could just basically manage the race, which was what I was looking for. And I also expected Sky to struggle on tyres, but his struggle was actually more fuel. He was making the tyres work okay from what he told me.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed to us that obviously an unorthodox tyre, should we say tyre life for certain tyres that you'd expect to go longer, because we know they're hard to be a decent race tyre generally on this game. So it seemed to be that China goes against the grain. So in which case you almost need an unorthodox strategy, almost for an unorthodox circuit. But yeah, incredible. I mean, obviously looking ahead now, this is your first race win this campaign, which feels odd to say given the fact that you've gone close time and time again. You were pole back at the fan voted track as well as P2, where you would take your should we say your first podium, I think, during the campaign as well. So last 2 races have sprung 2 podiums. So looking ahead, we've got Singapore, Miami. We just said to Jake, fancy Singapore. What are your thoughts?
A bit indifferent. I don't really have. I think I've done 1 league race in Singapore this game, and that might have been on the old layout. So I think that's going to be interesting. And I'm doing Miami on Monday, so watch this space. But overall, we'll take each race as it comes. I'm sure I'll be okay. It's just about I need to get podiums because basically the first 2 races were a write-off. I missed the second one, and the first one was a complete disaster. So basically, a 7-race season became a 5-race season for me. So I'm trying to be more efficient now and get that to work. Last race, I should have won it. Didn't quite get it. Fair play to Ben, but this time we got it done, which is what I wanted. I lost the last race on the last lap. This time we won out the last lap. So life.
Yeah, well, we put it down as probably one of the greatest, certainly one of the greatest league racing finishes I think I've seen as a commentator in many ways as well. Never seen, Delta drop back that aggressively, and then on top of that, an overtake in the last gasp moments. Will that rank quite high in terms of your all-time great league racing moments?
Yeah, I think so. That was a fun one. That could possibly be probably my best winning creator series. It's up there for sure because strategically, it was the biggest clusterfuck of a race I've ever seen. So your head was constantly like running numbers that whole thing. So that was a really fun race strategically. It may have not been the most insane on-track action, but one of them things where you're trying to look 20 laps into the future and trust that you're going to get where you think you're going to be. There was a lot of that going on, a lot of speculation. So I enjoyed it from that aspect, a really tactical race. And that's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, truly fantastic performance, Tom. We wish you all the very best for the rest of the season, and what a performance. And roll on Singapore.
We'll see.
Top man. Thank you very much. Tom97, everybody. Race winner from today's race at China. We now obviously look ahead. We've got yet another interview to bring you, I think, because Skyzy's just waiting in the wing. So we'll bring him in and have a little chat to our French maestro. Obviously, Skyzy, obviously, usually the maestro. Today just wasn't your day. The strategy going against you towards the very end, given that fuel became a factor. You must be bitterly disappointed. You led the majority of the race. The final lap, though, slipped away.
Bonjour. Well,
Bonjour.
actually, I'm not that sad. I'm not even like, unhappy about that. I really enjoyed the race. Sadly, the fuel part is on my side. I had to put more fuel than that. But it was a very, very, very nice race. I really loved it. I think that's my favorite race so far of the Creator Series since the start of the game. It was very tactical. You just have to put everything together. Sadly for me, I did not. So Tom was able to pass me on the last lap. But yeah, it was nice. I knew the one stop was a good strategy because the hards are very quick on the track. After like 5 or 6 laps, they are really, really quick and consistent. But yeah, I was lacking a bit of fuel, sadly. But I'm very happy with the Interpol and also the P2. So I think I gained like 9 points on Chamet Marduk. So it's still alright. I will take it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy race. I mean, strategy played quite a key role. I suppose we've got to applaud you in some ways of being the only driver to do the one stop. I mean, that was a true effort. I mean, did you think that... we didn't actually think there was going to be any risk to your strategy because generally a one-stop strategy, you associate it with it being the fastest if you can pull it off. But, you no way disappointed that it didn't work out because it seemed like you were in control and you seemed calm at the very front.
Yeah, I was calm. It was my track. The only part where I was like confused is the fuel. During
was it a mistake, the amount of fuel you put in?
It was a mistake. I went to pee during the break and the race lunch before I could very select my fuel. So it was just unfortunate, but that's on me. I should have been to the toilet before that. But yeah, without the fuel issue, it was an easy win, but still P2 is alright.
So the strategy issue wasn't in the tyre change, it was in the toilet break.
If I don't win the title at the end of the season, we can say that's because of that.
Yeah, it was due to a weak bladder that Skyzy lost out on the title. Wow, we'll write that in the annals of history. But looking ahead, Skyzy, to the rest of this calendar, 3 rounds to go. Gilligan's gone, but yeah, we've got 3 races left. I mean, obviously, after last season, you've got to win the title, right? Because you missed out by fine margins. I mean, what's the plan for the next 3 races?
Well, don't put too much pressure on myself.
Come on, Skyzy. Come on.
No. Every time I'm in a good position, either I got crashed out or someone decided to defend very well against me. But no, I don't want to see too much ahead of me. I know Singapore is the next track, so I will need probably to practice a bit, even more with Ben being absent. I don't really like Miami at all. And last time we did Miami, it was the worst race possible without a safety car. So yeah, we'll see. The first step is to be on the podium in Singapore. And after that, we'll see where I am in the standing, but it's very close between everyone, I think. Miraki is close. I think Tom is also closer today. But yeah, it was a nice event. A bit upset with the sprint because without the safety car I was like in the top 6 and Chamet not in the points, so it would have been even better. But hey, that's racing. I will take it, and I'm like very happy about my pace because most of the time I'm quick in the quali, not so in the race. This season I kind of inverted the situation. I didn't do a single pole position this season with mistakes every lap during quali. But I'm more confident in the race, and my setup is build more for the race. So I will still be in the same position in Singapore. So we'll see.
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, Skyzy, we'll wish you all the very best for the rest of the season. You got close, but no cigar. We'll see you at Singapore.
Yeah, see you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, and you too. Take care, my friend. Skyzy, everybody, finishing second in that race at China, feeling a little flushed after losing out in the final lap to Tom 97, and no one laughed at that joke. So yeah, we won't linger on
I'll be honest, George, I wasn't concentrating.
Incredible! I feel.
Someone clip it. And send it to me
I'm
and
the
I'll
only
laugh.
one allowed to make the terrible jokes, George. We all know this. Don't come and steal my thing.
I'll be
Get your
honest.
own thing.
I'll be honest. I think all sincerity has been taken out of this broadcast to a certain degree because honestly. There was no strategy out there that was necessarily sincere or followed any rich pattern. I think, to be honest, Dan, I think we were bemused by what we were seeing. I think through most of it, I certainly was.
Certainly one way of describing it, at least.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we had fuel issues, which dominated the grid today. So, I mean, Gareth, I'm going to bring you in because, of course, you were in the clipbook role. You got a chance to sit back and digest things, whereas me and Dan were just shouting over crazy moments for most of that. But I mean, what's your take from what we've just heard and what we've seen?
It was just fascinatingly strategic, really. People doing stuff to spite others. Was quite interesting. Ben and GB, as soon as they heard Alex Gillen had fuel issues, they were like, right, let's take him out of the game. It was interesting. It was like a game of Mafia out there rather than racing. I really enjoyed it. It's lovely to be able to broadcast with you guys. A stream is going to be a bit crazy when you hit start stream and OBS crashes. you know it's going to be a bit loosey goosey in that case. So that's what happened. And since then, it's been a fantastic stream. I've honestly really enjoyed it. One of my favourite streams. And third time I was on a broadcast for China. I've been on every single Chinese Grand Prix broadcast. That's something, obviously, I'm trying to keep up, some kind of weird streak.
Yeah, that was my first one, and I'm never coming back. And Dan, Dan, what can you take from this, Dan?
That my alter ego is this guy. That's one thing.
We've actually learnt a lot today, if anything, haven't we?
Oh, we have, really. Yeah, it's been a really insightful race. There's many things that we can take away from it. I mean, yeah, it was bizarre. It was a strange race for so many different reasons, but I think more often than not, strange for good reasons rather than bad. I think there was a couple of flashpoints in the sprint, as we know very well, and then in the race itself, I feel as though everyone had kind of gotten the rust off. Everybody had maybe taken a lot of the learning from the sprint, everything being done in sim damage mode, and even though it was no longer sim damage in the Grand Prix, it felt as though people were maybe driving as though it was still on. Like it seemed as though the moves had calmed down a little bit. We were no longer going for big banzai dives here and there. Instead, it was a bit collected, a bit more calm, a bit more measured, a bit more sort of planned out over multiple corners or multiple laps, rather than just if gap car and away you go like that. So it was good to watch overall. I think it was also really interesting, again, from that strategic perspective, getting to see those strategies sort of fan out and then come back together again towards the end, everybody sort of converging, which I think is great. I love races where we see that sort of a thing happening. It's just so rare that we do, because we often see safety cars, and this race was the perfect advertisement for plan your strategy for what is happening now. Do not plan on a safety car, because sometimes they don't happen. And so, yeah, that's essentially that. I think that is the main takeaway that should be taken from the drivers from this event, is that safety cars, yes, they sometimes do happen pretty frequently in the Creator Series, but occasionally, more and more frequently, I must add, they are not appearing in some races. And so as that happens more frequently and we see them less and less often, you're going to have to bake in strategies where you do not underfuel by 2 laps, because you think, oh, well, there'll be a safety car and I'll be able to turn my engine down. So things like that, they're some of the lessons that we can all sort of take going forwards, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those paradoxes. Everyone was wishing for a safety car, but no one was willing to give one. So, yeah, it was just one of those. But, yeah, truly remarkable. And I must say, after that one. I think we're all probably more confused about the way the championship sits right now. We could take a little look at the standings, I think, before we close out the rest of the broadcast. Let's give you an update, guys. Team Marduk still leads the way, 91 points to his name. MSkyZ now 79 points. Does gain a little bit on Team Marduk in this case because, of course, MSkyZ finished second off the back of all that. Meraki, a very important P3 finish, 71 points now, only 8 points away from MSkyZ in P2 and only 20 points away from Team Marduk. 20 points now separating from P3 up to P1. Tom97, 60 points now after that truly tremendous victory, and that could be a victory that makes all the difference in the world in terms of his championship foray. Looking ahead to Singapore, might yet be more chances on the table here for Tom97, and I must say, it is stacked up. If you look further down, Alex Gillen, Tom, Rasin Chai, who's obviously missed this race, it still stacks up to be one of the most extraordinary finishes of a season campaign, I'd argue, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things are still very, very close with the amount of points you can score in the Creator Series. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that someone maybe outside of I would say even the top 6 could get in there. I mean, you mentioned, of course, Rasin. He's the one who's down in P7 right now, and then you've also got others in the fight there too. So, yeah, a couple of bad races for somebody. Somebody misses a race. Somebody, whatever it happens to be, and all of a sudden there could be an enormous point swing. I mean, the difference right now between Ben and SkyZ, for example, is only 12 points. 12 points. That's nothing. That could be overhauled by one DNF and the other driver not even winning the race, just doing well, and you'll be able to get the points there to overhaul that. So, yeah, very much still many things to play for.
Yep. Plenty to play for, folks, and if you want to stay tuned in to exactly what is there to play for, be sure to leave a follow if you're watching on Twitch as well. Not forgetting YouTube, hit the subscribe button and also leave a like as well. It would really mean a lot and also help the channel greatly, and it'll keep you guys up to date as well as to when we go live here at EA Sports F1 Creator Series. Also, check us out on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at F1 Creator Series. They're always the same. Be sure to check those channels out. Lots of highlights, clips, and also updates get posted on there daily. You can also join the Discord server as well. We've got a very fantastic Discord server with a fan zone, so you guys can stay up to date and also chat in amongst yourselves as to who you're supporting through the course of this championship. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, I hope you have anyway. You can check me out as well, George Morgan, at It's George Morgan on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And Dan, where can they find you, sir?
They can find me in all sorts of different places, sometimes even under their beds. But what...
Lord help us all.
Exactly. Yes, no, you can find me over at Racer Clock Pod on Instagram and Twitter for the Racer Clock Podcast, which is coming back now that I seem to have gotten over my cold. So I can actually go and record it again.
I think we need a Dat Guy Vince special now.
We do, really, don't we? I'll just take all of the race reaction this weekend and I'll just chastise every actual Formula 1 driver in massive ways. But I'll do it in that sort of classy way where I don't swear. Because also that helps for the future monetization of the podcast as well. Hey, but yes, so all very well and good. And then if you want to see me occasionally post a photo on Instagram or a meme, then that's at DA Gilligan.
Yeah, there you are. That's where you can find him. Gareth Allen, where can they find you, sir?
Quite simply, it's at Gareth Allen TV on all the social medias. I'm mainly on the website previously known as Twitter, which is rubbish. I challenge anyone who's watching to go and follow me. Because usually no one does. That's what I'm saying there.
It's alright, they don't follow me either, mates. Don't worry, they don't follow me either, mates. Don't worry about it. Yeah. We're the scum, we are, commentators. Yeah,
we are, honestly. I mean, we tear down their heroes all day. That's all we do.
That's true, though.
Incredible. Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Today was the day of Tom Martinez. What a result. No one ever saw it coming. But MSkyZ will be back. I am sure of it. Watch out for Meraki as well. He says he's going to be strong around Singapore. We'll wait and see, folks. But join us next week as we go racing again here at the EA Sports F1 Creator Series. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.